You're late.
Better get in here. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us for this workshop of the Board of Trustees of Socorro ISD on September 20th, 2018. The time is 5:32. If everyone would please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Or the flag behind the screen.
Behind the screen.
The flag's behind the screen. Use your imagination. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item number 2, Board Workshop. A, Socorro ISD attendance boundary adjustments for the 2019-2020 school year. Ms. Macias.
President Nájera, Dr. Espinosa, members of the board. I'm here with you all today to share with you some recommendations that I would like your feedback for 2019-2020 possibilities for some boundary changes. The first recommended boundary change will be for elementary number 30. Elementary number 30, the recommendation is to provide support for Butler Elementary. Butler Elementary right now has about 350 overflow students. With that, what we are recommending is the area in orange currently is the Butler feeder patterns attendance zone. The area in green is the current Chester Jordan attendance zone. So elementary number 30 will actually help both of those campuses, and it will incorporate, it would be everything east of John Hayes, north of Pebble Hills, west of Tim Floyd, and south of Edgemere. Pre-K number 30, thank you Mr. Iington and Architects, it does have a pre-K hub, and it has 10 classrooms designated for pre-K. So it is 898 projected start. Out of that projected start, we have 192 pre-K students projected to open up elementary number 30. We are going to do a soft open for pre-K number 30, pre-K hub, and that would be for Butler Elementary and for elementary number 30. Just like we did Carrasco this year, Carrasco Elementary actually is the pre-K hub for Lujan Chavez and Carrasco. We would like to do the same thing for the first year of elementary number 30 opening. And these are the numbers off to the right as far as the number of students that we would be transferring, and they would be the first students to open up elementary number 30 with our new principal, or with our principal, Ms. Thomas. With your approval, we will start going out to community meetings. We'll first have faculty staff meetings with both Butler and with Chester Jordan to share with the community, or actually share with faculty and staff, the proposal. And then what we'll do is we'll have a number of community meetings to share with the parents so that we could get feedback. After receiving feedback, I will recommend to have another board workshop so that we could present to you the feedback that we are receiving, and then possibility of presenting the recommendation for approval for the November board meeting. So this is for elementary number 30 proposed boundaries. As you noticed for Butler, this is their current attendance boundary. And what we are doing is we are removing that little peninsula to the east. And what that would do is currently Butler is at, let me get the actual enrollment as of yesterday. Currently Butler is at 1,009 students. So with this boundary recommendation, we would now have 895 kinder through 5th grade students. Therefore, within time, any of the portables that we have, we would now transition to any other area of need. We would actually bring the students into the campus. And those are our new counts if this boundary is approved in November, and that is what our grade levels would look like. Any questions for boundary recommendations for elementary 30? Yes, sir.
Ms. Macias, I'd just be interested in seeing the same information like for Butler, for
Chester Jordan. You know,
Yes,
because
sir.
you gave us what the anticipated counts are for number 30. You gave us the numbers that would be transferring from each of the schools, and then you gave us the result of students anticipated to be enrolled at Butler, but we don't have it for Chester Jordan.
And I'm moving forward for Chester Jordan.
Oh, awesome. I don't have,
Awesome.
is there? Let's see.
Yes. The other recommendation that we have, one of the things that we were tasked for as administration is to maximize the use of all of our facilities. So before we went through our bond, what we did starting 5 years ago is we started looking at each of the boundaries, and we started to look at the functionality of each of our campuses. With that, what we found is that in the El Dorado feeder pattern, our need is for a middle school. However, we have available capacity within the campuses. So for the bond, the decision that administration toggled over was to request middle school number 11, which would be for the El Dorado feeder pattern, or if we could maximize the use of our facilities and not request a middle school. So with that, I'm going to recommend the possibility of maximizing the use of the facilities that we have now. Now that we have elementary number 29, which is now Jose F. Carrasco, we minimize the overflows from Lujan Chavez Elementary. That we are seeing the benefit of that this year. With elementary 30, that will help us with the overflows from Butler. So with that, Duarte and Chester Jordan now have available capacity. So our recommendation, initially, this little peninsula here, recommendation is now that this will go to elementary number 30. This here is currently, the green is currently at Chester Jordan already. With the removal of our peninsula now, that gives Chester Jordan available space for students. We currently have Herschel Antwine that is very next or right near Chester Jordan. So our recommendation is to incorporate this blue area here is Herschel Antwine's current attendance zone. So our students here in this blue area would transition to Chester Jordan. And with that transition, this would be the new elementary zone for Chester Jordan, or the attendance zone. We would now have 818 kindergarten through 5th grade students at Chester Jordan. The current enrollment for Chester Jordan is 1,031. So with this new recommendation, we are again maximizing the use of our elementary, but now we are freeing up available space at Herschel Antwine, and I'll go to that next. Our next recommendation, and these are the numbers that we have. With our new Chester Jordan, we would be transitioning our students, kinder through 5th, to the new Chester Jordan, which is the area in blue, and we would now have 818 students that currently live within the boundary that would be at Chester Jordan. Currently 1,031.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
Ms. Macias, will you go back, please,
Of
ma'am?
course.
Question, the area on the right with the streets on there, is that currently undeveloped or in the process of being developed?
Correct. That area right over here, the only area that is in the process, anything that you see in our maps that is in light pink with like a little line through it or a little light pink, those are the areas that will be coming up. In this area, this is unincorporated, and we don't foresee it getting any students within any time. They currently don't have water. They currently don't have utilities.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. If you noticed at this point, we now have available space at Herschel Antwine. So the next proposal that I would like to share with you all is again maximizing the use and now reconstructing this little area. What we are recommending is for Herschel Antwine to transition to a 6th through 8th, which is to a middle school. What that would do is now we would have 2 elementary campuses, Chester Jordan and Purple Heart, that would feed into Herschel Antwine. And right below Edgemere, we would actually have 2 elementary campuses feeding into Rafael Hernando. With this proposal, we would have Herschel Antwine at 772 6th through 8th grade students. And the transition would be our students currently at Hernando. Everything in yellow is the current Rafael Hernando boundary. And currently in Puentes, this is the area in light green or light blue. This area here already goes to Chester Jordan for elementary. So our recommendation is that they continue with their cohort right over to Herschel Antwine for middle school, instead of splitting the cohort and some going to Puentes and some going to Herschel Antwine. And for high school, they would continue with their cohort to El Dorado High School, and that now solidifies the boundaries for El Dorado High School. What that would do is now we have available space for our students. Again, all this area here is the undeveloped area that we do have single-family homes coming in the future. So that would give us available space to house them in a middle school. For Puentes, this is one of our fastest growing middle schools. It also allows us available space for the growth that is projected in the Pebble Hills feeder pattern. So therefore, our new Puentes, 6th, 7th, and 8th, now we have available space. Currently, Puentes is at 1,100 students. It's a little bit over. The recommendation of Herschel Antwine.
Macias.
Yes.
Ms. Macias, so let me make sure I'm following all right. You're suggesting that we change Herschel Antwine from an elementary school to a middle school?
Correct.
Okay. All right, I got you.
And along with that recommendation is the second piece, which is Paso del Norte is currently a K-8. Our recommendation for Paso del Norte would be for it to be an elementary campus. And that way, everything below Edgemere, now we have 2 elementary campuses, which is Paso del Norte and Duarte, that will feed into Hernando. And then everything above Edgemere, we have 2 elementary campuses, Purple Heart and Chester Jordan, that will feed into Herschel Antwine.
What about the appropriateness of the facility itself? I mean, I've been into some elementary schools like, Horizon Heights, and I can't imagine that ever being a middle school. Not that we would, but, I mean, Herschel Antwine.
It was built as a K-8.
I'm sorry?
It was built as a K-8.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it was?
Ms. Macias and I have walked both facilities. There are some issues with the lower levels because both of them are K-8s. And at Antwine, the kindergartners and pre-K have the smaller restrooms inside the room and stuff, but that can be addressed. But it was built as a pre-K-8, so there's athletic facilities and stuff for the 6th, 7th, and 8th.
And
Okay.
what we did,
Go ahead, sir.
yes.
No, I said okay.
Ms. Nájera,
Mr. Eby.
can we get in a packet better map? I can't make heads or tails out of this. I really
Okay.
can't. And what's going to happen here is, one of my concerns is we're going to bounce students back and forth, and we know that's detrimental. And what I'm hearing is a lot of numbers and where we're moving and where we have, and I don't mean to be rude, but we're not in the process of packing tacos. We're really talking about
Correct.
students here and where are we going to put them.
Yes.
Can I get better? I can't make heads or tails of this. I mean, they're colorful. It's the geocoding maps. I can't make heads or tails. I apologize, but I can't see anything. Could we get a handout later, maybe in Friday packet or something?
Yes, sir.
And then also a comparison of where we're moving students. Because we just did boundary movements, and if we're going to move a student over and now we're going to move them back, I'm not
Yeah.
supportive of that at all.
And this has been part of the plan. All of these students, none of these students have been touched before. This is part of the phase-in to maximize the use of our facilities. So no, none of these students have been transitioned for boundaries before. This is the first time that we touched this El Dorado feeder pattern. And we did that again with the best intent to ensure that we're maximizing the use of our facilities versus building a new building and now we have available space. Because as we built number 30 and 29, what it did is now it gives us capacity. For example, Iduarte would help support Lujan Chavez with the overflow, and Chester Jordan would help Butler. With our new elementaries that we need in those feeder patterns, now it solidifies the El Dorado feeder pattern. And within the buildings that we have available space to meet the needs of all of our students.
One more question.
Mr. Nahid.
Mr. Arrington, so with Herschel Antwine, since it was built for a K through 8, I mean, are we going to have the athletic facilities as well?
Yeah, it's got a gym, it's got a full gym, it's got locker rooms, it's got a weight room, it's got the softball, baseball, track. Yes.
Okay.
And we built them at Paso del Norte, and we don't need them now.
It took us so long too.
Took a long time to get those there.
Okay.
For Paso del Norte, the recommendation is we have this little area here, which is west of Tierra Este, south of Montana, east of Loop 375, and north of Edgemere. Currently, they are attending Herschel Antwine. By proximity, they are closer to PDN. Our recommendation is that this area would transition over to PDN for elementary. And with that, our PDN campus would have 896 students, kinder through 5th.
Ms. Macias,
Yes, sir.
could we include what that would do to traffic? Because, you know, when you have 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, it's a lot more likely that they are going to walk to and from. You know, just compared to a kid or your first grade student. And to move all those students, I mean, that's already on a major street. That gets pretty backed up, both in the morning and after school. You know, and I just don't think that we should not include that as a variable.
Yes, sir. We definitely will. Again, part of the transition, anytime we do boundaries, we have every single department part of that decision plan. And I've met with, I think, about 7 departments already, and we'll continue to meet with others so that they have all of those factors in place. By the time I come for the second board workshop, we will have that information for you as we're getting feedback. One thing is currently for PDN, they have 1,061 students as of yesterday. So with this would, as far as for the facility, we would be maximizing its use at 896 students. And again, individually, these are the students that we would be transitioning. Our students from Antwine, which is from K5, instead of going from this area here, their area of residence, to Herschel Antwine, they would now be transitioning from down Tierra Este to PDN. For Specialist Rafael Hernando, as I shared before, it would now be the middle school for the 2 elementaries, which would be Paso del Norte and for Iduarte. The current boundary for Specialist Rafael Hernando is all of the area in yellow. So the new boundary would be this area here in red. What this would do, it would also allow us to have available space at Rafael Hernando. Currently, Rafael Hernando's enrollment is at 1,105. So what this would do, again, it would give us available space for continued growth in the El Dorado feeder pattern for our middle school students. In this area, we are already consistently, if you notice, there is no little pink area, so this is the true boundary for a middle school. So it would be at 886 students, 6th through 8th grade. And for Robert E. Duarte, again, maximizing the use of all of our facilities. For E. Duarte, it currently has available space, so E. Duarte would now be, and it is centralized, our pre-K hub for the El Dorado feeder pattern. And with that, it would be comparable to O'Shea and Myrtle Cooper. With that, we would have our 348, give or take, pre-K students in our hub, and E. Duarte would be at 917 students. And that is the normal capacity that E. Duarte has had. This year, with the opening of Rafael Carrasco, E. Duarte's current enrollment is 731. However, their enrollment was very close to 1,000 before, so this is what they are used to as far as for our students. So this would give them a pre-K hub and then the comparable numbers for each of the grade levels.
Ms. Macias?
Yes.
I'm sorry, are we currently using portables at Duarte?
At Duarte, they are currently not using the portables. What we have them using the portables is over at Rafael Hernando for our middle school.
Thank you. Did you have a question, Mr. Eve?
Yeah. So, our schools are up here. We can't do this with somebody else so that it's not such an oval pattern as usual. I mean, I don't like that every time that, we got the schools at one end of the feeder pattern, and we found numbers to fill a school, so we go down here. So, down here, there's nothing else we can do and adjust so that the school is more centered within the feeder pattern, so it is a neighborhood school?
As far as for the pre-K hub,
Well, for everything down here. Why? This is one of those feeder patterns that's very unusual in shape, and we can't do anything else with that?
well, right in here, that's that natural divide by the, they have like a big electrical pole going all the way through this. So right over here to the left is PDN. So this is the PDN feeder pattern. So as far as pooling, what we did is to maximize the use of El Dorado. With this little area here, it was zoned to Pebble Hills. It is now zoned to El Dorado. That way we can maximize the use of Slider, Helen Ball, and for Montwood Middle School. So this area here transitioned, and that was previously, not last year, but the year before, they transitioned to Montwood High School feeder pattern.
See, but this has been my concern throughout because it's happening on the west side of our district where we have no control over that. The schools are already there. Where we have the school here and we have these huge oval patterns because we're trying to put students in there. This is a newer area and we're following the same pattern. And so can we not do anything else to make these schools more centered within their feeder pattern rather than, again, start making these big oval things that the school is at the end of one of the feeder patterns rather than more centered on the feeder pattern. This is a newer area. I know we can't do anything about Benito, we can't do anything about that side of our district, but if not, we're gonna carry this throughout, and we didn't learn any lessons as far as establishing feeder patterns. Again, this is one of those that looks, again, very unusual, and I was wondering if, yeah, we're accommodating PDN, but then on the other hand, then these schools end up taking the hit because we're looking further down and we continue to shift everything over to try to capture some numbers. I'm wondering if there's anything else that can be done here.
Right. And Duarte's feeder pattern has been the same quite a while. It has not been touched. So this is an established area. The El Dorado feeder pattern is established. Right. The last one that we touched was Chester Jordan. And what we did is we touched everything east of Chester Jordan across Zaragoza. And what we did is we touched that before there was any or very few residents there. That way, as they moved in, they weren't overflowed. They already knew that their school was Chester Jordan. But other than that, this area here has been in place as far as for Rafael Hernando, for Duarte. We did look at the possibility, but there is that true natural, it's like a divide. So you have to go all the way around to get to Duarte from the PDN. It's not a natural cross. It looks like you could just cross right here. You actually have to go all the way down to get, just because there's that electrical pole thing.
And this is why I want the comparison on maps. Because if I understood you correctly, you're also making accommodation for making PDN an elementary school.
Correct.
And that's changed this. That's why I'd like to see the comparison before what we did before and what we're wanting to do now.
Okay.
And to see where we are there. And again, I can't even tell the scale here. We're talking about a mile or half a mile or whatever. I need
Okay.
something a little more representative that helps me kind of wrap my mind around it, please.
Okay, we sure could. What we did is we kept the existing colors are what is the current boundaries, and then what we did is we put a line in red to show the proposed. But we could definitely do that to give you all the scale. And whenever we do any proposal, especially we're transitioning a middle school to an elementary, and I know there's a lot of numbers, but what we wanted to do, that way it gives our maintenance and operations time to transition, is the logistics of how the transition would occur. So for Paso del Norte, our recommendation is for it to transition to an elementary. And what we have found with our families is that it is much more palatable and easy for them to plan whenever they're going to naturally transition to another campus, which is pre-K to kinder, 5th to 6th, or 8th to 9th. Whenever they're doing a natural transition, if our boundary changes impact at that time, then they're transitioning to a new campus anyway. So we have found, based on their feedback, that that is much more manageable and planning stages for them. So our recommendation is for Paso del Norte, as it transitions to elementary, we currently have our remaining PDN, which was its current boundary, which is kinder through 5th, and that 5th grade, next year going into 6th grade, if you notice, would transition to Rafael Hernando. So that PDN transition would go, because it's a natural transition, it would transition to the middle school. So for our first year, 2019-2020, it would be K5 and 7th and 8th, because 7th and 8th is already there. And these are the numbers that just transition with it. That Antwine West, we have our kinder through 3rd that would transition right over. And with that transition for 2019-2020, for Paso del Norte, we would have a projection of 982 students, and that is K5 and 7th and 8th. That would be year 1 for PDN. For Rafael Hernando, they have their current 6th through 8th students, and what they would do is they would have the new 6th grade students coming in from PDN for year 2019-2020. What that would do is the transition for 1920, they would have 646 students for that year. For Herschel Antwine for the first year, 2019-2020, for Herschel Antwine, we would be transitioning to the middle school. So kinder through 3rd would transition right next door to Chester Jordan. The area right over here for, and I'll go back, that's the little peninsula here. For kinder through 3rd would transition to PDN. And with that transition, Herschel Antwine for the year 1920 would be 4th, 5th, and 6th. Those 5th graders would be transitioning to that middle school 6th grade section. And for 2019-2020, the little ones at Purple Heart and Chester Jordan 5th grade that used to transition to Rafael Hernando would transition right next door to Herschel Antwine. So that way, now our 6th grade is becoming set for our new middle school as it transitions over. So for 2019-2020, we would have 360 students at Herschel Antwine. What that would do, it would give available time to maintenance and operations so they could do any adjustments that needed to be made for that campus as it transitions to middle school. And as we go through the years, and it's a 2-year transition for PDN, a 3-year transition for Herschel Antwine. That way all of the facilities are in place as the students transition in. For Chester Jordan, what it is, Chester Jordan stays the same, it's a K5, but they are now adding the students 3rd grade, 1st year, 4th grade, the next year, and 5th grade the following year. That way they're transitioning over for Chester Jordan. And these are the students as far as Antwine, kinder through 3rd, kinder 4th, kinder 5th, and these are the numbers as they transition in the 3 years as we go through. The other numbers that we have, again, more for a planning piece for all of our departments. That way they're able to see where the students are going and transitioning, because as we meet with the families, what we do, these little ones, they mean students to us. So we want to make sure that every single student that's here, 62 students, every single family receives a mail invitation, they receive a phone call, and then our campuses actually invite them to the meetings. That way we ensure that they are aware of what we're proposing and they're able to give us feedback as we're transitioning. And again, what we do is we go out, we get feedback, and then I bring it right back to you. There might be possible modifications as we go through. And this is the 3-year plan. That way every single student is there and we make sure that we account for, and every single parent is part of that conversation. One of the last proposals is, we have this area here, we call it the Quails area. I think it was addressed about 10 years ago. This Quails area, currently, our students go to Slider and Montwood High School. There's 52 6th through 8th grade students, and there's 90 9th through 12th grade students. And these students technically, and they're right down here, they technically fall right into the America's feeder pattern. But for a decision was made, they supported Montwood for the past 10 years. Before they were at America's and they were transitioned to Montwood 10 years ago. Our recommendation,
Which ones again?
this little area right here, it's called the Quails. We call it the Quails area.
Right behind the Walmart.
It's not on them.
Oh, it's not on the,
Where again?
yeah, it's because I click
on the
it
very
and it,
bottom
Down
there.
there at the bottom,
This
the little
little-
dangly part.
this
The-
little area
It's the area
here.
right behind Walmart.
Yeah. So the recommendation would be that they would transition to the America's feeder pattern. Again, when it's a natural transition, 5th to 6th, pre-K to kinder, or 8th to 9th grade.
Excuse me, so half of Slider would go to Maui, half of Slider would go to Americas?
No, it is a small portion. It is 90, currently, there's 90 9th through 12th grade students, so truly, these are our numbers here. So at Slider, we currently have 10, 20, 30, about 60 students.
So where would they go to middle school?
They would go to Clark, and then they would go to Americas.
And we want to do that, why, I'm sorry. The
What-
problem with Maui is it's landlocked, it's on the west side of our district.
Correct.
And anything we pull away from that will end up at 5A here tomorrow. So why would we want to do that?
Correct. What we did is currently Montwood is at the current reside mode for Montwood. There's 2,824 students that reside in Montwood. As far as of yesterday, we have 2,727 students at Montwood High School. The goal is to get all of our high schools about 2,600 students. That is the ideal number. We know going towards the 3,000 is high. So, and this is a small portion. It just to get them right back down, it makes it more feasible. Again, Clark to Americas. Americas is also now landlocked. We do have some growth projected to Americas. This is one that as I go out, this is hopefully one that as we open up middle school number 10, we are able to adjust some of the middle school numbers, and it would help Clark. So that way Clark is now solid, and so is Americas.
But as the crow flies, this is a lot closer to Maui than Americas.
Absolutely.
That's what
I
we were
mean-
looking at.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot closer.
That's what I was
mean,
thinking.
Ms. Macias,
90 students is not going to make a big difference
No,
one way or the
it's,
other.
and this is one that, again, getting your feedback, this is one that it's just more schematic. And the fact that Americas also needs the numbers because they are landlocked, and Montwood is also.
what about that little area there just to the right of the 375? I mean, because to me it would seem better to move a little higher,
Area, this
right
one
there. Yeah, those going to say El Dorado if what we're trying to do is help
But no-
Montwood. Because where are the students that are to the right? Well, no, I won't even say right. The opposite side of Walmart on from 375.
Mm-hmm.
They're building on that area heading east, and I don't want to say east just because
Yeah.
everything switches, right? But it is.
Yeah, that's
know.
Pebble Hills,
He's talking
that
about
area?
that blue area right there at the bottom, right there.
That's
No
all going to
lower.
be, well,
Right there.
right here.
because
That's
Vista del
across from
Sol isn't,
Walmart.
Vista del Sol isn't on that map, I don't think. No, because,
It'd be down
because
lower.
Vista del Sol is further down.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's
And-
right here.
and-
So
and
we
so
could go
they're-
to this one.
Yeah, they're building in that area, between Pelicano and Vista del Sol and a little,
Where
right by
the tire
club.
area is.
Right.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
building in that area,
yeah.
so
That
aren't they
is-
gonna go to Americas?
Yes, they are.
So there's
And
the-
with all that new development, America's numbers will grow. But Ms. Macias, on the screen before this,
Yes.
you've still got El Dorado's numbers at 2,700.
No, that's Montwood, right?
This is
No,
Montwood.
up
up on the
El
right.
Dorado up there
You've got numbers at 2,700. So
Yes, that is
why is
reside.
it okay for El Dorado, but we can't leave it the same for Montwood?
And Motwood will go to 2,400 at the same time frame.
Yeah, we could. And again, this is something that I wanted to propose. That's something that would provide us, but it's not one that is necessary. You guys have been here, and you know why the quails changed, so it was actually my way to say, give me feedback. Is this something that is necessary, or is this something that
Well,
we don't have to?
I think America's, with the new growth and in the America's feeder pattern, their numbers will go up, but there's no new growth in Montwood.
That
So
is correct.
we need to conserve their students, is my opinion.
That's
But
my thought too.
And I remember, I don't remember the change in that area being 10 years ago, because I haven't been here for 10 years, but I remember
Please talk about it.
there was, some parents that were quite upset when we made the change because they were going to
Americas.
Americas and, all of a sudden they're going to Montwood, and it's like, okay, well, so we have,
So we'll just,
it just, the argument that I used was, you're a lot closer to Montwood, and now we're gonna, so.
right. No, so, and again, this is something that will not, would it feasibly work? Yes, but is it necessary? No. The others, like I said, other than that, for the El Dorado feeder pattern, we will need a middle school. If you looked at the numbers, we currently have 1,100 at Hernando. We have, and I could give you those numbers, we have 1,105 at Hernando for our middle school. And other than that, that is the middle school that serves that entire area. If we go right back, that entire area transitions right into Hernando. And then we have PDN, which is also already above 1,000. And sorry, I have my cheat sheet with two slides, but 1,061. So at that point, we're continuing to grow. That area in Purple Heart continues to grow. We have multi-unit facilities coming in, so we want to make sure that we're projected and we're ready to account for them. As far as for the quails, is that feasible? Does it, as far as the numbers, did it look feasible? It did look feasible to support, but is it necessary? That one, not necessary. Any questions? And I know it's a lot of numbers. I will go ahead and give you the side-by-side. That way you could see the comparability and as we transition. I'll make sure to do that, and we could get that to you for, possibly not for tomorrow, because I look over at Juan Jaime, he's my expert. But if we could work on it and we could have it to you by next Friday, that way you all could see that feasibility, and you could see the transitioning from the grade levels. We'll make it a little bit more
But Ms.
visible.
Nyla, and I'm not that interested in the geocoding. I know it's there. That's how
Yes.
we use it. If I could see the maps a little closer to scale and where the schools are.
Yes,
so
sir.
that we can get a frame of reference with the boundaries put in place, and maps a little closer to scale.
Yes, sir. And like always, your feedback is very important as we go through any boundary transition and as we get feedback, because we try to go out as much as we can to get as much feedback as possible. That way, if the boundaries are approved, that way our next step is to educate our parents and to make that transition as easy as possible for them.
Ms. Macias, I agree with, certainly with Mr. Ayub, and I may be asking for the impossible, I don't know. But the color coding makes it, because I brought up, Google Maps, and the one that Mr. Ayub was concerned with, the purple one, I don't even remember what it was.
Paso, was it Duarte?
With Duarte?
Yeah, with Duarte, right. Okay, so I brought it up on Google Maps, and I can see the natural barriers. I can see that, the design here is not arbitrary or convenient, it's just, there's natural barriers
Yes,
there. Does it make sense considering that? I don't know, but, looking at it, it's like, oh, okay, we can't go this way, we can't go that way, we can't, because then you have to go all the way around to try and get there, so, maybe if we could somehow tell what the streets are, maybe if the color wasn't, if you could just see like the ground underneath, I went to the satellite map, and that's
Okay.
what allowed me to see it.
And maybe we could do that for our next workshop, is we could actually put the Google Maps, that way you all could see exactly what it looks like. And the natural berries, that's what we usually do. That helps us for boundaries, and it just logistically makes sense to the parents. Instead of crossing this area, and then, of course, we will include how far, as the crow flies, or the distance, that way we could see arbitrarily that it is closer for that little area from Herschel-Antwine to transition to PDN than the current route that they're doing, going all the way from that area to Herschel-Antwine. It is closer for them.
Yeah, because like this map, it looks strange, but as I looked at, okay, what are the alternatives? I mean, the alternatives are worse. So this is, actually
no sense.
an okay scenario, so
Okay.
it just,
No, we will definitely do that. We'll hook it up and put our technology to work.
Ms. Snyder?
Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes. Is the plan to be at 95% capacity by 2025, or
No,
is
what?
that what we're
Yes, thank
shooting
you.
at?
Truly, every time that, as we've been working on this, we have, of course, the capacity for every single school. Our goal is to be below the 90%, because that way, 90% functional capacity, that helps us still give us flexibility for our fine arts, for our special ed, for our students with special needs, because all of those need available spaces to work on, but they're not regular classrooms. So our goal is to get it at 90% functional capacity for the building, not including any of our portables. So that's what we've been looking for throughout. The magic number for elementaries, and I know that you love 800, Mr. Ayub, we usually look about
800 or
850.
less.
I know.
Less.
And what we try to do is about 850, based on the fact that we have about 1,000 or 1,100 that we're working with. So we're looking at about 850. For middle schools, again, about that. Of course, less than 1,000, but we're looking at that 900 range, especially for this area. We still need a lot of space. Let me just read you some of these numbers so that you could see what we're working with. For the Pebble Hills feeder pattern, we still have 1,934 single-family homes projected to come in. Of course, we do our formula, but that's within the next 3 years, we should get 120 high school students. Let me tell you that we get a lot more little ones, elementary students at high school, but we want to make sure we have available capacity. El Dorado, 1,567 single-family homes. And again, we are the district of choice, so they are coming. So about 160 high school students within the next 3 years. Montwood feeder pattern, exactly correct, we're built out. We still have 263 lots. So compared to the other ones, so we're projecting about 20 high school students. America's feeder pattern, 1,230 lots under review. So again, possibly, right now we have it at 40 because that area right now is not growing, but we know it's prime location. So once we actually have families coming in, we know that it's going to go closer to that 100 to 200 students coming at the high school level. So America's, you're exactly right. It still has room to grow. Eastlake feeder pattern, you guys ready for this one? 2,698 lots under review, 5,744 at the land study stage. So they are coming. That one, again, potentially it says 40 students within the next 3 years. Why? Because right now, they're not there yet, but they're coming. So once we get that information, we'll give you the update, and it's going to be very close to the hundreds of high school students coming in. For Socorro feeder pattern, we have 1,203 lots under review. It's in that new Nuevo Waco tanks area, which is great for our Socorro feeder pattern. About 120 students within the next 3 years. So everything that we do, we're trying to project and give us available space before having to go ask our community for more support to build schools. So we're trying to maximize the use of what we have.
Mr. Ayub.
At what point do you anticipate you and Mr. Arrington factoring in the remodels in the 3 old high schools? I know we haven't talked much about the specifics at Americas and El Dorado, but Mawood is potentially coming in with a few extra classrooms, and I don't want us to forget, we're remodeling some classrooms up on the 3rd floor. These are smaller numbers, but it will change capacity as far as students. And the other thing, what I mentioned to you the other evening in finance, have you had an opportunity also, as you're looking at capacity in elementary schools, which 800 or less? Remember, there was a time ideal,
Yeah.
elementary schools were 400, 800 or less. But one of the things I shared with you the other day, we have a number of our elementary schools that there's no place for the fine arts program. And so we said we're gonna do a fine arts program, but we've got teachers teaching dance between computers, art people teaching art between desks, and on and on and on, and not to mention hauling large amounts of equipment in and out of these classrooms, even though they're there 4 or 5 days out of the week. When will you be able to factor that in into our attendance boundaries and into our campus capacities?
That is part of it. Whenever I come see you all for our next board workshop, that is definitely part of it. Again, within most of those campuses that did not have that area for our fine arts, it's right here in this area, which is El Dorado and Pebble Hills. The other area is Eastlake. So as soon as we get Elementary 31 on board, that's going to give us that available capacity. Horizon Heights, Sioux Shook, Mission Ridge. Again, that Elementary 31 is going to do the same, if anything, miracles as it did for El Dorado as we built Elementary 30 and Elementary 29, which is now Jose F. Carrasco.
I see.
Yes, it is part of that, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Ms. Macias, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Item 2B, Socorro High School reconstruction. Mr. Ironton.
Thanks, sir.
Oh, cool. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Good evening, President Nahara, Dr. Espinosa, members of the board. We're back again to kind of review our schematic design for Socorro High School. If you can recall, the 2017 bond program was passed back in November, and when we were promoting the bond, we always stated that on the new construction, especially the high schools, and especially Socorro, since that was the premier project or the largest project of the bond, we were going to make it compatible with our other high schools. We were going to get input, which we have from the community, students, and administration at various meetings. We are also stated that during that process that we were not going to provide portable buildings at that campus. We were going to do a better job in designing the facility and constructing the facility to where we would not put any imposition or impose any hardships on our kids, our students, when we were constructing it. We also stated that we would have everybody under contract within a 9 months to a year process of the passage of the bond, which we have accomplished that. We have all of the major projects under contract, and within that year, or less than that year, because it has not, November is still a couple of months away, so we have completed that 2 or 3 months ago. We also have started construction on elementary numbers 30, 8 months into the bond program. So we are proceeding with the bond. All of our major projects, you're going to see the one tonight being presented to you, the schematic design. We're in design. It is still design. It is called schematic design. There's another process after this that goes into design development, and then we go into construction documents, and then we go into construction. So with that in mind, and that we have met with the administration, done our community meetings, gotten input from the stakeholders, I'm going to turn the meeting over to VLK Architect. Ken Hutchins and Clinton Shriver will walk you through. You got the booklet. I already see you thumbing through it. Probably shouldn't have given it to you until you seen the presentation, but most of it's going to be on the slide presentation. So at this point in time, I'll turn it over to the VLK Architect.
Thank you, Mr. Ianton. We appreciate the introduction. President Naira, Board, Dr. Espinosa, we're very pleased and excited to be here tonight to present the schematic design for the reconstruction of Socorro High School. It's been a very exciting project so far. It's been unusual, and one of the best ways it's been unusual is the fact that in a lot of districts where we design high schools across the state of Texas, we may be allowed to interact and get information about what a district wants on a new school design from maybe 20 or 25 people. From the time that Dr. Espinosa put together a leadership group to go study and look at different high schools around the state of Texas, through our last design meeting, over 100 people from Socorro ISD administration, community, teachers, and parents have participated in this process, which is phenomenal. So this building and the design that you're reviewing here tonight truly represents their vision of that community for that school and the hopes and dreams and aspirations for what those kids can achieve in their future through the education here at Socorro ISD. We also have been very privileged to work with Mr. Tovar and his staff. He has been very generous of his time, and as his teachers and facilities, he has sat in and attended every meeting. When we've needed to go review the campus and look at an existing condition, he has allowed us to do that. When we've needed representatives of his teachers or staffs there to have input on the design, he has had none of those meetings, and that's been a tremendous asset and help. So while we've been doing the design, we have met with various representatives throughout the district that we've called in. We do not design buildings, and especially high schools, in a vacuum. So we've had representatives of the district's fine arts department, academics, athletics, who've been very generous, providing us the number and size of lockers for every program that we need to do when we're going to provide the locker room facilities. CTE has been a major input on this facility due to how it's being blended into the campus, as well as Socorro Early College and the Health Professions Academy. We've had representatives of all those groups in those meetings, and in VLK Launch, our charrette process, many of the students and parents of those departments were also participating in that process. So first, let's kind of go through some what we call VLK curation, and that's where we get to know the district, and we also learn together to study what your aspirations are for the project. So one of the things that we did is working with the district, we created and went with the district on what we call campus experiences, and that's tours of other high school or secondary education projects throughout the state of Texas. And so it was critical to do this to see what is going on as far as best practice in high school design today in the state of Texas, and to see also not only what you like, but what are things that maybe others had done in schools that you know you would not want to have at Socorro ISD and you wouldn't see benefits from. So one of the first projects we went through was the Hollenstein Career and Technical Center at Eagle Mountain Saginaw ISD. This building serves all of Eagle Mountain Saginaw ISD, which is a district on the northwest corner of Fort Worth, Texas. And it came about through the companies there, automobile repair, air conditioning repair, heating, ventilation, different groups, plumbers, going to the school district and saying, we can't find enough people. If we will support you in a bond election, if you will build a facility to create Career and Technology Center. And so like how Socorro High School works with some areas of your district to provide certifications to those students, so does this high school. We then went to Houston and went to the DeBakey Health Science, or High School for Health Professionals campus, which is actually located in the Texas Medical Center, and went there and toured their programs. It's actually a 5-story building in the heart of the Texas Medical Center, because there are times when those students go from that program and actually go over to a hospital and observe what's going on in the high school. And we kind of all came away with, yeah, it's a good building, it's a nice building, but there were some missed opportunities there. And frankly, your academic folks and talking to their folks felt like probably your academic programs are just as strong and in some areas stronger than what theirs were. So again, we saw some missed opportunities that they had there that they didn't take advantage of that we wanted to note to make sure that we would do. We then went to the Dan Dipert Career and Technical Center, which is at Arlington ISD. It is a campus-wide facility, and how it was designed is exhibiting opportunity. You go through this Main Street area, and there's glass that looks into all the different academies. And the academies are positioned so that their academic programs can feed off one another and do different projects together. And that was one of the things that we brought back and incorporated into the new Socorro High School design. This is Energy Institute High School that opened this year at Houston ISD. It's a high school for students who are just focusing on energy careers. But the main thing they saw here is how the collaboration spaces working off of the labs and classrooms with whiteboards, marker surface, those type of things, projection, allowed students to not only work in the classroom, also to work out in collaboration areas. The Braswell High School is the newest high school at Denton ISD. And again, what was seen here was lots of collaboration areas where students can work with themselves, with faculty members in small and large group instruction to really work in settings that are more like what they're going to work with in college and in the working environment. And then Keller High School. This is Keller ISD northeast of Fort Worth. And the reason for touring this campus, this is a very old campus. Like Socorro High School, it was the first campus at Keller ISD. It had gone through many renovations and additions in the past, such that you couldn't even find the front of the building. There were areas back in the building that they were still using for various functions, but they no longer supported those rows with the size of the programs like the band hall. So they wanted to go there, see what this building, how it had been renovated successfully into a new campus that represents the Keller attendance zone. And then Alban High School, Shadow Creek High School, Alban ISD, down south of the Houston area. This is a new building that mainly is set up for flexibility and transparency. The ability to move students around, to move walls, to different program types, a very adaptable surface or school for academics as it proceeds through the years. Plus it's a very compact plan and it has 3-story academic towers. So what came out of this was honoring the tradition of Socorro High School, such things as juice bars, being able to plug in devices, learning centers for tutorial areas, and really a maker campus. Don't have a maker space, but a maker campus where you can do education everywhere through the district. So this concept began with VLK launch, which is our charrette process. And so at that, we had 69 participants who were students, teachers, faculty members, administrators, in a 2-day process where we actually established the conceptual framework of the design. Some of the parameters, and I've combined a couple of things here, but the parameters that we received from the board as well as Mr. Iington's group was reuse the pit, which is the competition gymnasium, and renovate it. Renovate the existing locker areas into modern contemporary locker rooms that you have at your other campuses. Reuse and renovate the fine arts area here. Keep and reuse football and baseball, and then no portables to house the students on a temporary basis during construction. We had to do it and phase the construction so we could have academics to move the students into, while then we took down the existing campuses. And then one of the things that came out of the charrette is how the neighborhood and the community wanted to make sure that the front of the building was oriented and visible off of Alameda Drive. This is examples of some of the gaming concept boards that the teams worked on in moving the puzzle pieces around and getting the things acclimated. We let them move things around to see where they want academics, where they wanted the administration area, those type of elements, where they'd want athletics. We then came back with this concept here, which they selected, that was turned into the design by that committee. And so the entrance is here off of Alameda along this face of the building here. There is CTE programs here, fine arts here, athletics, cafeteria with the library here, career and technology, and then academics here. Because one of the things that was talked about is really embedding CTE and the core academics and Socorro Early College and the Health Professions Academy together to really let those programs share, do projects together, and support one another. And also what came out of this was really a discussion by the parents, the teachers, and the students, how they wanted this building to really show them and lead them to what their future possibilities are of working and living in the Socorro community and beyond, and to give them aspirations and to show them all the possibilities through education and how they can benefit from that. We had typology of space boards. These are boards where we have the exterior of the building, classrooms, library, cafeterias, athletics, and they put stickers on here, and they also put Post-it notes and put comments on there, and these are the highest ranked ones that we've received from the VLK launch. And so what they were looking at is they told us they didn't want a building that looked like Socorro buildings. They wanted a building that was more modern, very contemporary, clean lines, lots of natural light, lots of windows into two-story spaces. You know, this is very much a space here in the automotive that is a space that emulates industry. That's a school automotive space, but it looks like a car dealership automotive space, and that's what they wanted. Not something typically that you have around the district, but something very forward-thinking that, again, leads to aspirations and dreams. So here's the schematic design that we have worked through over the last several months in meetings with staff and members of the community and representatives of the schools and district administration. So this is the site plan. Alameda Avenue is here. The new Socorro High School is here. The entrance of the building is here. There's visitor and staff parking. One of the things that we've done to relieve the tension on the site and to put natural daylight in the center of the building is we've created a lawn area. So we've actually relocated the tennis courts to an area over here. We've created 2 practice fields here next to football. To facilitate this design, and Clint will cover this later, we're actually going to, one of the first phases, we're going to build a new softball stadium next to baseball so we can do the 3 academic towers, a campus administration area here, and a career and technology center here. Band practice will be here adjacent to fine arts, and then student parking here. And North Rio Vista is here. Traffic coming in, bus service and access will be along this area here, coming into the cafeteria here, and then looping around the buses through here. This actually on this side for the buses will be a 3-lane road, so that way the buses don't block up that road, which the fire department and emergency personnel appreciate, so they can still get to the building in case of an emergency. And then student parking will come over off of North Rio Vista. One of the other things that we've incorporated is this drive and drive loop here, which is an athletic drive, so buses will come in here, pick up students from the athletic locker room area and take them to and from games. The overall first floor plan, North Alameda is down here, the main entry here. This is a campus administration. This is where the principal, AP, the business office, a volunteer area will all be in this area. You will come into this area, and if a parent wants to come in and pay for a transcript or something, they can come in here and do that. Volunteers can come here and work, but they can't get past the secure area of the building. Nobody can do that until they go past and give their ID to the desk here and get buzzed into the building. First floor here is Socorro Early College High School is here. This is the pit and the competition gym. The locker rooms are all in here renovated. This is varsity and JV football here, the auxiliary gym, and the wrestling room here. This is the weight room here. The existing football field is here. This will have glass. This is north, so there's not direct daylight, and so athletes working out in there will have visibility to the football field. There's a main connector that will run across the campus and connecting this existing function, these renovated existing functions, and the new construction here. You'll come by through here, and this is the cafeteria, the kitchen, and the black box theater. Over in this area is dance, community rooms, a renovated auditorium, which also includes a new fly loft, so it gets a fly loft comparable to Pebble Hill, so they can do the correct way of conducting a theatrical production. Guitar and different classes here, orchestra, mariachi, choir room here, and then this is the theater scene shop. Coming along the walkway here, you've got career and technology is here. These are the base of the two academic towers. The student entrance here, student services is here. So while we have the principal and 2 APs here, here we have 5 APs. We have the registrar's office and elements such as that. The nurse is in here. The counselor and the Go Center are here. And then the special needs are here. And so this embeds these folks with the students, because one of the things, while different groups are trying to talk about the hardening of schools of safety and security, you also want to put your administrators in contact with the students. So conversations happen more on a daily basis. That's an event so that if somebody is having concerns, they're having problems, they have concern about another student, it's easier for them to go visit these people because they're going to be interacting with them more on a daily basis instead of everybody being here and all of your student population being here. There are some special needs programs here and then general academic classrooms here on the first floor. Here on the CTE side, this is automotive and diesel, barbering. This is the classrooms for automotive. And then through here, there's construction, law enforcement, a courtroom, the fire training area. And this is culinary arts in this area here. This is cosmetology. And then this is the TV studio, business, engineering, architecture, and art. And we put these together, again, trying to create synergy between art and between those CTE programs and allow them to do projects together. One of the things we've also done and oftentimes in high schools, when somebody comes to CTE, a public member, to get their oil changed, to get their hair cut, those type of elements, we've actually created a security vestibule over here. There's a reception area. People will come in and come into these groups through a secure vestibule instead of walking directly into them from the outside. In addition, this has been oversized, and that's where on election day that will be a polling location, and the polling booths will be out there so that then people aren't going into the library. So by doing this, we've created a place for the public to get in those spaces, but yet they don't go across secure lines to get into the student area or the high school area. Back in the cafeteria and kitchen, the cafeteria and the kitchen serving line opens up to the lawn, and this is the black box theater. And so one of the things we've done, due to the fact this is phased renovation, and we're going to have some areas that it's going to take quite a time to do. It's like the auditorium. It's going to take a significant time, especially when we're going to take the roof off the building, take out the foundation system of the existing stage, raise that up to the appropriate height. You don't just do that in an 8-week time period. By creating the cafeteria here and the black box theater, it will have one wall here that will be a vertical lift door that acoustically seals that space off from the cafeteria. So while this will be renovated, this can be the stage that can be used for plays and musicals, lectures and different things to the cafeteria, and in the cafeteria you can have the seating set up. So they will still have an auditorium space in the building while the main auditorium is being renovated. Then when it's done, you can still have black box here. They'll have their own scene shop. There's 2 dressing rooms, storage, restroom facilities. So they can do their black box performance, or it can also be used as another space for instruction, district-wide meetings, or whatever you'd like to do there. It gives you another flex space in the building. Second floor, so you're above the administration area. You've got Health Professions Academy here. You've got all their labs in this space back here. This is the second floor above where the locker rooms are now. That'll be totally renovated. Socorro Early College is on this second area floor here. There's a bridge that connects. You'll be able to look down to the cafeteria and out through windows out here to the lawn. The biomedical classrooms that are part of CTE are here, so they're in close proximity to Health Professions Academy. Navy Junior ROTC is in this area here, and then this is the other half of Fine Arts, band in the flag room, and then this is more storage for Fine Arts at this area. As you come down this way, you've got the library, business classes from Career and Technology, and then general academic classrooms, collaboration spaces, special needs rooms on each floor, and then these are the science labs here. One of the other things we've put into the building are design labs, and these are spaces for your teaching professionals to have to go in and work together, work on curriculum, training, whatever they need to do, small groups for them to get together and do their work. And then the third floor here comes up, and this is more of the same, just like the second floor layout of science, classrooms in collaboration with the design labs there. So this is an aerial view of the campus. This is Alameda here. The building entrance is here. The logo of the school will be here. The security vestibule is here. Socorro Early College is here on the end of this. There's 2 of their science classrooms that actually has a covered outdoor balcony so students can go out there and do work, and that projects education out to Alameda. The auxiliary gym is here. You can see the tennis courts edge one of the practice fields. The new kitchen is there. This is fine arts with the new fly loft up on top of it. The band pad practice area is here. This is the loading area for their semis, but when they need to practice, they come out of the door and come across here, and they never have to cross a road to get to their practice area. And this is CTE, and this is the 3-story academic towers here. Then this is the other view. North Rio Vista is below you here, Alameda here, North Rio here, I'm sorry. Then the academic towers, CTE, the student entrance here, the lawn off the cafeteria, softball, kitchen, fine arts, athletics, HPA, and SEC on the second floor. And now we're going to run a little animation video that will take you around the campus. This is the lawn. That's the cafeteria and all glass back in there. Glass at the serving line. Students can come out there. On the academic towers, they face north. This is the collaboration spaces, and there's glass that lets natural light into those collaboration spaces, but we also have shading devices over those windows here for energy savings. This is the student entry. That's also the entry for the CTE program. Weight room. We're going to reuse the existing training building, fine arts, and the 2 academic towers. And now Clinton's going to go over the phasing and schedule.
All right, so all of this kind of work doesn't happen at a quick pace. We know that there's an existing campus full of high school students that have to go about their daily life, so we want to be respectful of that, make sure we're working out of their way and giving them great facilities at the end of the day. We'll have a quick little video to kind of show the phasing. We're still working with the contractor about the overall time frame, but the concept will be here. To make a little bit of room, go forward with kind of some site work that can happen very quickly over a short summer period. side while high school is happening. This is what that would look like at the end of that construction phase. Now that we can move students over to that new construction, we can come back into parts of the existing building and start demolishing and then rebuilding new facilities. So there, now you would have your front entry to Socorro High completed. And then the last phase is to demolish the last pieces of the old building. Build back some of the site amenities, the extra practice fields, the tennis courts. And also at that point, there's the new facilities come online, so we have the opportunity to renovate some of the other spaces. So right now we've mentioned in schematic design, so that's about 20% through the design process. So we're here to get feedback, but also want you to understand that everyone we've met with so far will be going through additional meetings as we go into design development. The big picture of schematic design is to listen and hear what the community, what the district, what the staff, students want from their high school. The next phase is, now that we have all those pieces, to meet with the individual teachers, coaches, band director about what goes in those spaces. So that's kind of that next step that we call design development. After that, it's technical drawings, so the contractor has something to build from, and then construction. So rest of this month, next month, we'll be going through those design development meetings, that early site package, so we can start some of the demolition and moving the softball field, making sure any major utilities are moved prior to students showing up so that all those disruptions occur while the school's already closed. High school's never truly closed, but there's times where there's a few less students on site. We'll take any questions?
Questions?
Comments?
I do, but I mean, if somebody else wants to go first, I don't care.
You go ahead.
Okay. So, what is the current square footage of Socorro High School? And what is the square footage of this one?
Square foot of the new design is 506,000 square feet. And the existing is 502 or something like that.
When you're talking about collaborative areas, are you taking that at the expense of the classrooms? I mean, it's kind of nice to say we're going to have all these areas for collaboration, for students, for classes, but are we taking that at the expense of classrooms? Where are we getting the space from?
It's a it's more efficient layout than the existing high school. The existing high school has a bunch of fingers and cross circulation areas that sometimes are single loaded or not loaded at all.
Okay.
So this, from a planning standpoint, is a much more efficient building with the main quarter down the center, the loop quarters, and each of the wing towers, such as that is a much more efficient building than the current campus, because the existing campus obviously has been handed on to and different things done in multiple times to create that campus there.
So we're not losing space?
That's correct.
No, okay. And just to clarify, I know you and I spoke, Mr. Arrington, before. At one point, that the thought was that some of the classrooms would be smaller than Pebble Hills and Eastlake, and I understand you and the architects have adjusted that so that the classroom sizes are equal or comparable? Okay.
Yes, we've done an analysis, and they are comparable to all the other high schools along with the other areas. On the collaboration spaces, it's similar. You were at Crosco, Purple Heart, 30 that we're doing. That hub area is a circulation space. That's our collaboration spaces. That's some of the spaces that are going to be incorporated in this design.
One of the things I asked last time is, obviously we've got this whole CAPE wing and these CAPE classes. Are we going to still consider incorporating something into the facility so that the students can go look or see it at work, things like solar panels, windmills or something? I mean, the community college just gave us a bunch of roofs for the students to learn that type of trade. Will there be some real actual things at this high school that they can see?
Yes.
Like what? That was not just a yes or no question.
No. You know, at the, I believe at the board meeting, the similar question was asked about this building.
Right.
And we're working with two vendors that are looking at solar applications to our schools. They hadn't really looked at this school yet. In fact, I talked to one of them this morning or this afternoon. So we're looking at those, and as you saw with some of the structures that we actually visited down that main corridor, some of those facilities have the glass walls and the walls that will look into various mechanic shops or the culinary arts and things where other students can visualize and see what's going on. So these things are to be worked out in the next phases. So we are looking at that.
But how does that address the energy and power industry? Clean
We're,
energy.
like I said, we're looking at the solar,
I see.
and we're addressing that. You know, until we get some more information on the solar, we won't know how it will affect it. So, but we are looking into it.
Perfect. In your design, does your design allow for program growth? The number of CTE classes we have today in classrooms and the number of HPA courses and early college, high school, how are we going to accommodate when those programs grow? By the way, as you're flipping to that, how many students is this school built for?
Capacity of 2,500.
Okay. So have you built in for program growth?
Yes, we do not design schools without designing in to allow programs to grow. That's a huge mistake. So what we've done is this area here, you can grow Socorro Early College, and you can also grow HPA. This area here, you can grow CTE. The classroom wing towers can be extended out into this area here, and probably when we go through and do the actual layout of this road, it's going to come out some, so you can also extend CTE here. I've got it placed a little too close and I want to change it, but you can see that we are picking specific points to allow those programs to expand, as well as you could actually expand fine arts that way if you wanted to as well.
When you did that, how far out did you project that we can do that? If we finish this school next year, I know we got a 4-year plan here going. If we finish this school next year, how many years down the line can I still do that? Because, and I'll tell you where I'm headed, because around here you can't sneeze without the city changing building codes, and then we can't attach a building without remodeling the whole building. What is your projection on years for that?
Well, we designed the buildings per the code and with fire sprinkler systems, fireproofing, those things, so we don't have to have walls that are fire barriers within the building. So therefore, we start to get to a reach where we can expand and have a larger footprint. So from the standpoint of that, unless somebody changes something on the building code that all of a sudden caps a high school at 506,000 square feet, you will be able to expand it.
Okay. Give me, yes, sir.
On that, this is going to be designed with sprinkled building and stuff. So I think you were probably thinking more of the multi-purpose room because
All of those that we're building, yeah.
yeah, because we have to separate that because some of the existing elementary schools are not sprinkled. If we attach them, then we have to upgrade all of that. This will be built under the current code, whatever that is. It can change in 4 years.
Right.
But we should be able to attach to it because the addition will be sprinkled.
For a longer period of time.
Yes.
Okay. In your architectural design and in your planning, explain to me what you mean by blended learning. Because I'll tell you what, people will use the term blended learning in a variety of categories. And you were telling me that you were putting the placement of CAPE, the placement of HPA, early college, high school, was to provide for blended learning. What does that mean to you as you're designing this building?
Well, I'm calling Ms. Farmer over here to help with that because as we were going through the design, we were looking at like the 2 art classrooms with architecture, engineering, and the such to blend those together to have program opportunities. And so I'm going to call on some of the academic folks because they've been in those meetings to help explain it from your district's perspective.
And we find the culprit.
Yep.
Thank God you don't have 5 of them.
We didn't plan this, by the way.
This was not planned.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just happened.
Little song would work now, yeah.
We hang out way too much.
I believe it. So what are we talking about here, blended learning? Because as you all know, we've talked about this before, it means different things to different people. What are we talking about here?
So one aspect of blended learning is when you have your assignments, and it can almost be like flipped learning, right? The assignment is given, the student goes home, does his notes, does everything, and then comes back to school, and then they start at that place, right, the very next day. That's one aspect
Flip
of
the
it.
classroom. I'm
Right?
with you,
Flip
yeah.
classroom. The other aspect of blended learning, when you are working on particular assignments, I'll take mathematics, for example. You can work on mathematics projects that may integrate sciences into that, depending on maybe chemistry. You're doing chemistry equations, but it may also fit into some of your mathematics. Some of these, depending on the programs that we have with our technology and with our math programs, some of those, part of it is using technology, part of it is maybe hands-on, and then of course you have your work that you're scripting and solving. So blended learning has a few different aspects,
I'm with you.
okay?
How does it apply here?
This is with the CTE?
How does it apply with Socorro High School? Because what I heard from the architects was that CTE, HPA, and early college high school were placed in close proximity in order to accommodate blended learning. How does it fit here? Unless maybe that's not what they meant, and that's potentially true too.
It would go
And
with
well,
your high school if you're doing
Mr. Ayub,
courses.
Yes. Yes, and, go ahead.
CTE, HPA, and, I mean, the early college and HPA are in close proximity, but CTE is way on the other side of the other building.
Right.
Yes.
And they mentioned that this would be blended learning.
Yeah.
So how does that
So
apply?
your HBA and your early college, they may share some classes together. For example, yes, your dual credit classes, your science classes, et cetera, your biology classes, whatever classes you may have, they may share some of those classes together. With that, your curriculum is also being shared, right?
If you build a curriculum, I give you, the classes are not there. The biology class is down the hall, so that's not gonna work that way. I mean, some labs may, but not. So, can you
Yes.
build curriculum where you incorporate this? I give you that, but I'm not really sure that that's what we were talking about here. I mean, unless, if you could help me understand, because I'm not getting it.
Yes, for the HPA and the SEC, the early college, we're looking at certain areas such as lecture halls that we can share so that we can maximize space. One of the things that we talked and we asked is having the ability to bring in cohorts of groups of kids, whether it was a freshman group in the HPA program or the SEC group. What we're finding is some of our kids are in both, are in HPA or SEC program, and for that reason, bringing them together and having them together and sharing space will maximize the use of that area. Socorro High School, as many of our high schools, are completely DNA campuses, and they have their technology and computers. So the flexibility of using the laptops and, as Ms. Farmer said, the curriculum across both the SEC and the HPA area would facilitate the use of the space, that lecture hall area for SEC and HPA. The teachers themselves, some of them, with permission of EPCC, we are sharing them for dual credit purposes. We do not have just in our program for SEC, we will have, once it's full in, we'll have approximately about 435 to 500 students, depending on if we get the 135 per cohort. And the same thing with HPA. Some of those teachers will teach some of the SEC dual credit and some of the HPA dual credit. So for that reason, being in the same area helps with transitions, helps with just schedule, and just with curriculum itself too, for conversations. As a teacher, having a conversation with a teacher, an informal conversation about curriculum sometimes is more productive than a meeting, because then you could plan, then you could talk, and then you can extend the lesson, or you can go into creating a more in sync lesson plan when they do meet to talk about curriculum.
Because consistently at the meetings that we had where the students were, they were in favor of that these classes be close together because
Yes,
many of
sir.
them participate in multiple programs. But the blended learning thing is something different. I mean, I'm not sure they were thinking about combining. Some things do lend themselves to that and some do not. And I'm not sure we blended much of the curriculum at this point unless you create one. And that's, I guess, yet
That's
to be
the only
developed.
blended space that I know.
Right, that's yet to be developed.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That's the only blended space that,
Perfect, okay, thank you, thank you. While you're there, I was wondering, why did we split HPA? And by the way, did HPA lose square footage? It has two different areas in the floor plan.
No, sir. No, sir. HPA and SEC have both expanded from their current square footage because we added classrooms on both.
So they have more classrooms at
Yes.
this point, okay.
Yes.
Next thing I wanted to ask you is, your bus route and the drop-off and pick-up, you made an effort to have a good drop-off pick-up for these big bruiser football players, but my 80-year-old tuba player has to carry the instrument all the way down to the buses at the other end. How do we do that? Because the football players have a nice drop-off for their equipment, but my fine arts folks have to haul marimbas and xylophones and tubas and God knows what else, and there's no drop-off for them on the bus. How are you going to do that?
Well, we'll have more meetings with transportation and work through issues such as that you bring up. There's a clear circulation path down through the center of the building that can do that. And it is possible that the buses could come around and pick them up here right at the back door of the loading dock of Fine Arts.
Well, if we could
Because
do that, that would be better.
that road loops around the building.
Being a band booster for 10 years and hauling that equipment, sir, I do not want to haul it
No.
down that hallway. I'm telling you.
And I'm a
So-
band, and
so-
I was a band booster too.
There we go. So you know what I'm talking about.
So there is a loading dock.
Yes, sir. Yes, there's a loading dock, and the loading dock is wide enough that you can pull 3 vehicles in, because it's also the loading dock for the scene shop for the theater department. Because their scene shop is right there, and what they requested is we actually have an overhead door directly onto the dock right here. So when they back up right here, instead of coming into the building and then in through an overhead door, they can actually go straight into there with their materials.
So I assume that I'm sorry.
No,
Mr.
please
Newman.
go ahead.
I assume that even though that is, the bus route for traditional, drop-off, pick-up, whatever, to go around all traffic and stuff, I assume that a bus would still be able to go in the main entry or that parking
Yes.
lot right in front
Yes.
and be able to maneuver.
Yes, because that road is also the fire lane around the building, so it's going to be big enough and have the appropriate turning radiuses for fire apparatus, so a bus can navigate that.
Okay. That was one of my questions too.
Access to the theater. Every high school in our school district has direct access from the parking lot for people to go in and see a performance. If I show up at 7, 8 o'clock at night to see a performance, and here I have to go through the school. Now, I understand in talking to the fine arts folks, they requested access to the entrance to the theater, and we don't have it unless you've changed something since we spoke last time. How do we get to the theater?
We are working on a way to create an access into the lobby area of the theater from this side entrance right here and off this parking area.
Are they going to lose classrooms?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
Oh, good. We'll lose the community. I'm with you.
There are several items that we'll be moving forward and continuing to study.
Perfect. So then let's talk about the hard one. After talking to folks, losing 400 seats in the theater is unacceptable. I realize that we have to update for ADA. I did check with city inspectors so that they could educate me a little bit more. What does that mean? And why do we need crosswalks for wheelchair access and so forth? But 400 seats is a lot of seats. When we also sold this project, and you made an excellent point in the early going as far as previewing the project and what we said we would do and what we promised, so did Mr. Ironton. Among the things we said is we're keeping the fine arts area, we're keeping the pit, because quite frankly, in my mind, nobody in their right mind is going to let us build a gym that size again. Nobody in their right mind is going to let us build a 1,234 seat auditorium. And actually, when the community heard that, they all were happy of, oh, great, you're keeping the theater. And in recent discussion, this thing's dropping down to in the 800 range of seats. And I'm told part of that is because we're maybe going to add a classroom or something. I think we promised the community we're going to keep this auditorium, and I wonder if we can find a way to do that.
During the presentations and when we presented the design, we said that the auditorium structure was going to stay and the structure of the pit was going to stay.
Right.
We didn't know exactly what, so, unfortunately, we are looking at it, and I'll let them explain a little bit about the reduction, but it's still 870 seats in there, So yeah, it's roughly 400 left. But there are some ADA issues. There are some proscenium height issues and sound issues and stuff that we had this conversation at the facility committee, but they can go into a little bit more.
Gentlemen, he threw you under the bus. You're up.
Mr. Arrington, before you walk away, sir. What's the seating capacity of the two new high schools, Eastlake and?
8 something. 600 something, maybe 800, I thought.
We've got Pebble Hills, 648, Eastlake, 650. This one is projected at 867.
Okay.
Oh, good. I put you under the bus, Quentin. I don't know what to tell you.
So one of the things that we had to look at is, right now it does not have that fly loft. So there's going to be some structure that has to carry the height of that so that we can have the full lift of stage sets and whatnot. So that structure has to be hidden. The proscenium open, the stage front is also wide enough because a band director kind of designed this space originally, not a theater production. Theater prefers having wings where your actors can go off stage to the right or to the left. So that narrows that stage front so that they have that space to kind of walk off scene. As you do that, your view angles from the audience narrow down also. So you could have seats up front, but they wouldn't have any real good view. So some of that shape. The acoustics we can overcome with treatments, reflectors, speaker systems. So it's not so much about acoustics as the view from those early seats, or front row seats. And then it was just about a balance of parity with square footage of space, balancing it with budget, other concerns about constructability, timeframes.
Well, I felt we budgeted accordingly. So I know we talk about the money sometimes, but I think we budgeted accordingly. As far as the sound, I agree with you. You said not a problem because I checked. Abraham Chavez is 2,500 seats. McGoffin is our comparable stadium or theater to the one in Socorro. They don't have sound problems. That's accomplished with sound systems, electronics, you're right, reflectors, right acoustics, and those types of things. The fly loft is something that goes up, and whereas I understand you're going to have to build some width of a structure to an insert to put on there, I'm not sure how much space that's going to have to take, but again, we're still talking 400 seats. I also talked to my fine arts folks. They weren't real crazy about losing the width of the stage. So how much we're going to narrow that, I think, remains to be seen from their perspective. And again, the issue here is we had kind of a landmark special theater here, and we're about to change it to do what every other theater has. And my concern here is, quite frankly, we should have leveled the thing. We should have raised the building, put on a brand new modern theater if we were going to try to match very close to the other seating capacity. One of the reasons we were keeping this whole fine arts area is because it was built very nice, much roomier than other areas. Their band room is bigger than anybody else's, and those types of things. So we were trying to preserve some of those things. I would also be unhappy if the reason we're taking away 400 seats is to add classrooms there. This is the theater. If we need more classrooms, we bought 19 acres. And I'm told from you all a minute ago, we have room for expansion there. This was a landmark area like the pit was. And sounding, the ADA things, I understood you were going to dig up the floor anyway to adjust the slope. I understand once we get over 500 seats, that's when we have to worry about wheelchair access and where we place those the seating capacity and a few other ADA things. But 400 seats, in my mind, is still a lot. I think if we could get closer to 1,000, I'd be happier. I can see losing a couple hundred seats, but 400 seats is a lot of seats.
Okay.
Is that possible?
We can study it. It's, again, a balance of the square footage. The renovation space, even an expensive space like an auditorium, that renovation is a lot cheaper than building new. So as we use up more of the renovation space for the auditorium, the other spaces it's displacing, like dance and some of the other ticket windows and storage, will get built new, and that's just new additional cost.
I don't understand what you said because the space is there now. What are we going to displace if we make this bigger?
So we took some of that space, and it's a little hard to see here. So the auditorium actually reaches up to about that level.
Okay.
The existing auditorium.
Yes, sir.
So if we try to recapture that space to add the seats back, the dance hall, some of these other ancillary spaces get displaced, and we'd have to build here. You know, there'd be other places to build, but it would become new construction rather than reuse, renovation inside that existing overall structure.
Okay. Which
Do we
was
have-
there to begin with? Go
Do
ahead.
we have a dance room now?
A very little one.
Very small. I mean, yes, I think it's one of these small rooms here.
Teeny tiny little room.
Mm-hmm. I agree with Mr. Ayub. You know, one of the things that we did say was, you know, that the auditorium was an anchor, you know, of the high school there, along with, you know, and for it's I mean, it's one of the few auditoriums of its size, you know, and everything that I think the community wanted to keep, the pit. You know, I know it's one of the largest gyms in the city, and the reason I know that is because the final competition for Winter Guard is held in that gym. Ever since my college freshman daughter was in 6th grade, you know, the finals competitions have always been in that gym, and it's because no other gym across the entire city is large enough to host that many people. So that was another one we're going to keep. I think if we had come in and said, you know what, it's too old, we can't do it, we have to, you know, knock it down and replace it, but we're going to get all modern technology, new lighting, all this stuff, you know, we could have promised the benefit of, wow, new, cutting edge, you know, but we didn't. We said, we're going to keep it as it is, and you'll get the new stuff too, you know, so I don't.
So right now, our intention was, it's a full renovation, so it is brand new, cutting edge, the full fly loft, or 2/3 fly loft, which is equal to Pebble Hills and Eastlake. All those functions improve the acoustics. So the intention was, it's a renovation in place, but it's not just some new seats and a curtain. It's a full.
But it's 25% smaller.
Yes, sir.
It's like losing a leg.
I would say 33%.
Yeah.
It's a third smaller.
Yeah. So it's like losing a leg. I'd be unhappy.
I encourage Mr. Arrington and you all to work and see if we can fix that. And how do we, I don't want to lose the dance room. People have been very enthusiastic about that. But how do we do that without losing our auditorium to some extent? I think that needs to be important. So tied to that also, let me see, what else do I have here? Oh, well, step one. I asked you this before, and I guess this is coming later. Last time when you talked about this, Clinton, we talked about honoring tradition, and you're going to look into what the community likes, because this is supposed to be a traditional legacy. You know, it's a rebuild. It's not a brand new high school. What people need as an element to remind them of the long tradition Socorro High School has. And you all will be working on this?
Yes, sir. So we'll work with Dr. Espinosa, Mr. Tovar, to get groups together, either alumni or current students, and do a search for what are the artifacts that are important to the campus.
Okay.
Some of them are physical artifacts. Some of them are more concepts. You know, I'm an Aggie. There's a thing called Elephant Walk. There's no physical space. It's just the seniors get together and walk through campus. So those kind of legacy events even sometimes may translate better if they had a space, but there's not going to be something, you know, there's the chato, the statue, everyone can point to that, but there's going to be other things in the campus, or just, like I said, some sort of ceremony or event that they have that may need to be reflected in a space.
And I was there at the meetings, and I get the fact that the students and the community wanted modern, wanted new, wanted college vibe, okay? And so is this campus going to be able to do this for us? And also the architecture. Now, the photographs you have now, the renderings, kind of maybe illustrate a little bit closer to what the campus will look like. I'll be honest with you, after we left the room the other day, and certainly nothing to your design, we kind of felt it looked a bit plain, and this is going to be a hallmark building for that community. We're not building this high school again for 50 years, and in that area, this is the building. This is going to be the big building. And so now these pictures are a little bit better. Do you think that this represents the wishes of the community, and will we get a wow factor out of this?
I believe so, yes, sir. The college campus feel comes from.
That's more inside, I think.
Yes, sir. It's more about the inside spaces, spaces that allow students kind of that trust factor to gather together outside of a classroom and work on smaller projects, that you would like a college freshman or a college senior, that they have those spaces to work on projects. The exterior does have that wow factor. I don't think there's really anything that has that balance of the clean aesthetics and glass.
Pursuing on the inside, one of the things I mentioned to you all last time, and there may not be agreement from Dr. Espinosa or Mr. Tovar on this, or the assistant superintendent. One of the things I often think about is this campus really houses multiple groups, but specific groups now. We have an early college high school, we have the HPA Academy, and then we have a CTE area. But particular to our advanced academy and particular to the early college high school, I wonder if they'll consider if there's an arch you go through, a doorway you go through, a line on the floor you go through, because as you do that, you all familiar with situational leadership. At that point, you suck in your gut, you put out your chest because I'm at the high school, or I'm in the HPA Academy and now I'm wearing an HPA uniform. There is that benefit to their enthusiasm and them garnering that. And I understand, and I would suspect Mr. Tovar feels this, it's one school and he's responsible for all of it and he has to give everybody attention. But as you walk through these doors, like when you walk into an ROTC building, as you walk into a basketball gym, there's a change of feeling and perspective, and I wonder if you all consider building something like that. I don't want to speak for Mr. Tovar, but maybe if you all think about that, that would be important.
Definitely. So that's, a lot of that comes through the interior treatments, the design, the finishes. But that's something that's good to hear the feedback, because we know that that's an intention of the school board. And I think we've heard it some from the students themselves, that they want their uniform of a building so that they...
Well, an example, on an aircraft carrier, the whole stinking thing is gray until you get to the captain's quarters and the floor changes to blue.
Right.
And you don't cross that blue line without permission, okay? So how does that happen? I'm not denying permission, but how do we look at that? And the last thing I'm still unhappy with, not unhappy, but I wish we could do better.
Is this the last thing? Because
The last thing. Did I do a last thing earlier?
Yes.
3 times? Thanks for taking that. I'm not crazy about the orientation of the building. When you showed us the slides a minute ago about the current Socorro High School, it clearly spans the Alameda area. People can see it. It's visible there. This thing now kind of goes at an angle toward Rio Vista. And even though there's a lot of parking lot there and so forth, I still think we're kind of tucking it behind that ugly shopping center. But is there any thought of, can we do anything else with this? I know you already told me, well, because we got to knock things down and build things up at the same time, we're locked into some things, but I'm not crazy about the orientation of the building.
Are we stuck with the orientation because we want to keep the football field and the baseball
No,
field
you're
and the
you're stuck because the
pit
fine
and the
arts
fine arts?
and the gym sets up we can't turn those unless we demolish them,
Oh, but you could put all this other building over there.
Well,
But
I watch HGTV and they uproot houses and move them all the time. Mr. Ironton,
Yeah.
well, we're going to have to
you're
look
an
at this.
architectural
and
genius. Come on.
Texas flip and move it or something.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Texas flip and move.
Yeah.
I don't
on
think
DIY
Ms.
too.
Nahara saw the video, so can we back up and just run it again?
I just wish it could be more on Alameda.
Well, okay, that's why I got up here.
I think we're going to show the video.
I think Mr. Nahara asked the question about, get the video back up after I start talking. Americas doesn't face Pelican. Eastlake doesn't face Emerald Pass. Where is the entrance to Montwood? Who knows?
Nobody knows that.
El Dorado.
I agree.
Who knows where the entrance is? Pebble Hills is to the
left.
intersection.
True.
So they're all
Cantered.
different.
Well, we can blame you for
And
a
I
couple
got
of those.
pictures.
Oh, yeah.
You can blame me for some of those, and I can blame my staff. But we got pictures if you want us to pull them up to reinforce those. But if you look at all of our existing schools, some of them they're not totally facing. Pelican, Americas is the main one. It faces Peter Cooper. It doesn't face Pelican.
Sure.
But we don't have, but all of them face a street, right? This one has a little piece facing the street, and then it goes off at an angle to the
Well,
back. We'll see the video.
Eastlake is the one that probably doesn't face the street. It faces the water tank.
The water tower, true.
Okay. This is only a couple of minutes long.
When your time comes, I hope you get one more last breath.
So I just was hoping we could be more in Alameda compared to the old design. I mean, if this is gonna be the best we can do, I mean, you could make me a little happier by turning that front door so that people can see it from the street rather than it's on the side, but beyond that, that's fine, I guess. The last thing I have, well, now's our time to make these points. And I'm glad Mr. Tovar's here. I know I spoke at length with Ms. Correa about this. I'm not crazy about the two administrative areas. Why would you split your management staff? Now you're at one end and you gotta either call them on the phone or the radio or walk all the way over there. I can understand if you wanted to put a conference room, an office over there so that temporarily there's somebody there like they do at the other health profession academies and so forth, a principal there, but you've just split half of your administration and you put your counselors as far away from you as you can. Why is that functional? Because I looked, there are no other high schools that do this.
Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
Nice seeing you again.
Likewise. In the big picture, Mr. Ayub, and everybody else, just to let you know that, and I talk to the kids every morning. I have sacred 5 minutes to preach to my kids. And just to let you know that I'm living in a brave new world for the last couple of years, where I'm going to leave beside the academics because we have little beautiful communities within this building of learning. SEC, HPA combined together, CTE, all those beautiful things. Al lado. Ultimately, my job is to make sure that those kids are safe 24/7, as long as they're there. Right now, I can technically, every morning, I hate the news now because of everything that I get on my phone or on TV. Right now, if you just consider our current home, it'll take me, and I think I'm semi-fit, at least 5 minutes to go from my office to go to the band area. I have no radios. I have a walk-in security, but look at the square footage of that current house that I have. I need to make sure that I have enough administrators and or security officers and or police officers in that whole little city that I have, in that whole, that area. So it's best practice to make sure that I have radios, personnel in every single last part of that building. Right now, technically, if you just think about where Troy is, think about those hallways in that area. someone can walk in with a knife or a weapon and no one can react to it at least within 4 or 5 minutes in that whole area. If you look around where the culinary arts area is, that little dock area, someone can walk in there. And it's not like I do not want to have security there. I do not want to have an administrator there because we're active in the classrooms. Yet this new setup allows us for sure to be within those academic communities, have areas to meet with them, but most importantly, that someone's son, someone's daughter gets home every day. Because right now we're living in a brave new world. The best practice is to make sure we have somebody there actively monitoring not only instruction, but the safety of our kids. So to answer your question, hopefully I did.
Yes, sir, but you mentioned the city, and you typically don't split your city hall. You know, where the brain center of decision and policy and direction, you don't split your city hall either. The safety thing I give you, and if you're comparing it to your current structure, your building is very antiquated, built in a different time where access was free. You know, in the old times, there was nothing about a parent walking right to a student's classroom to say, I want to talk to so-and-so.
Yes.
That time has come and gone. So security and those types of things are certainly of a prime concern. However, you're not unsecure because there's not an AP there. There's a teacher there, there's other people, and security systems need to be in place for alarms to go off, for lockdowns to happen. Those things happen. And as far as security, now you have 2 entrances. You're also going to need another person with a vestibule in the back and one in the front. When people come to do business with you, if they need to talk to a counselor, they come to the front. Now they have to go to the back. The interaction is different. That's what I'm having a little trouble understanding. At the end of the day, I'm not the principal. I'm not the superintendent.
Yes, sir.
I don't have to work there. You're the one that has to make it work.
Most
I
definitely.
just don't understand why you're splitting your city hall.
And to that part also, let's go into the academics part. If parents do come in within that area, whether it be the SEC, the 2-story floor area on the right-hand side, or the CT area on the left-hand side, based on that, it is within that area that we could best bring the teacher in if they need to meet with a teacher, cover with a substitute. It's closer to that, logistically, it's closer to those learning communities, those small learning communities, to where parent can have access to both administrator, the counselor, and if I do need face-to-face, one-on-one with a teacher in a little conference room, they have set that aside for us to have those little conference areas. Again, it goes back now to customer service, to where we have that learning area, get a hold of the teacher, the counselor, and the administrator. So that covers as much as we can. Is there a perfect fit? No, there will not be. But within those different areas, we could have the appropriate people to address any kind of needs, both academic and parent concerns, customer service.
Ms. Nahid?
Ms. Rodriguez?
I don't understand your rationale on that because, I mean, I'm an educated parent. When my daughter was in school, I had no idea where her classroom was going to be.
Right.
So I knew to go to the front office.
It's required.
Yeah,
That's
you know, but here, if that's the rationale where the parent, you know, the administrators will be closer to where the kids are,
Right.
well, what if my child come over here on this side and my child's over there on that side? Or vice versa? What
Right.
if the majority of the classes, I'm coming through the front door? You know, so that rationale, I don't understand that part of it. And then the part about safety, you know, where you're saying that right now your administrators are in walkthroughs and they're in classrooms. Well, they're gonna be in the classrooms over here anyway, and over here, and, you know, wherever we're seeing, you know, the administrators are gonna be walking around on campus anyway. So I'm just, you know, again, I don't understand it, and having the staff split, you know, I just, you know, I understand somewhat, but at the same time, that could be accomplished by, in my thought,
Yes, ma'am.
you know, with you know, we're conducting walkthroughs, we're going
Yes,
into
ma'am.
classrooms, you know, we're there anyway.
Yes, ma'am.
And the thing is, as I was looking for this, as we're talking about best practices,
Yes.
we always drive on data-driven, you know.
Yes, sir.
I can't find anything on this. Now, are we going to be the first high school that does that? Maybe somebody else somewhere has done it, but I just haven't found one. And when I see that, that's one of the things that kind of jumps out there. Why would we do that, and how is that gonna be functional? Because does that make our building less functional or your administration less functional? I think you suspect it'll make it more functional, but I just haven't found any data-driven best practices that show us this unless we're on the cutting edge.
I have a difference of opinion. Especially the counselors being in the back, closer to our students. Our APs and our counselors spend the majority of their time with our students, not visitors coming into our campus. I mean, I know parents do come in, but the majority of their time is spent with the students. And them being in the back with the students puts them in closer proximity to the students.
Well, two of the APs are up front, though.
Well, and those two can take care of parents. And I'm sorry, what was the last point you made?
Which the last point or the
Data-driven. I said
Data-driven.
last one or the last one
Yes,
before
we
that?
do use data-driven.
You're like on your 10th last.
Like you said, when I'm ready to die, I hope I get one more last.
You do say data-driven, but I look at this as something brand new for us to
On a 50-year
benefit our students. It's not that huge of, I mean, I don't think it's that huge of a deal. I mean,
What's,
I think it could be very, very beneficial to our students.
What's-
And
what's the length of that hallway? Are we talking about from administration to student
It's almost
services?
like an Eastlake thing.
yeah,
Isn't it like an Eastlake thing, the hallway? It's a good-sized hallway.
Oh, yeah.
It's about an
yeah,
Eastlake
yeah,
hallway.
yeah.
It's pretty lengthy.
And this has been done on some of the schools that we visited. They had split offices,
What?
Which one?
administration area.
Which one?
DeBakey,
DeBakey,
Braswell.
Braswell, New Sherman High School.
I've been to DeBakey. DeBakey is 60 feet long. It's 5 feet,
Five
it's 5
feet-
stories
five
high, but
stories
it's 60
high.
feet long.
Okay, well, that's not a high school. Well, it is high
It's
school.
like an office
It's a-
building that's a high school.
But the other high school, Shadow Creek,
Maybe bigger.
Braswell, and Denton.
I'm
and
just
all
wondering why we want to do it, and I'm not 100% here we shouldn't do it. The issue is, I'm just wondering why we want to do this here at this point. And what I wanted to hear, sir, and I think I've heard some from Mr. Tovar, and I've talked about this with Ms. Corsay, that we're doing this for good reason, not a fad type thing, and it doesn't look like that's the point.
okay.
No,
Mr.
we're-
Gonzalez.
Yeah,
Oh, good, because I was done.
Oh, thank God.
if I may, first, I'm going to touch on some of the areas that Mr. Abel
Lord, it's a rerun.
looked at. The arts part of it, I do hope that maybe when you go and consider things, you can come up with a few more seats to keep. However, we gave you guys a structure that was not going to be moved or destroyed. And we also gave you a budget. And it's like, pretty much like I gave you a dozen eggs to make an omelet. Now you make one, 6 omelets, a half a dozen, or 2 dozens, whatever. You have a budget, and as you cut it and make it one way or the other, you have to address, like, for instance, the career and technology that we're adding. You have to add the athletics and everything else within that budget. So you had to make the necessary adjustments to create that. As to the 2 entrances, also have to look at the fact that you are now creating an entrance where you're going to have career technology for people to come in and fix their car and this and that, whatever. And students can come into that area, and the public for voting and stuff like that. So you need to have part of administration in that area. So I don't see any problem with that. I think that there was some thought giving into it that, gave you the perspective as to what it is that you want. You asked the students, you asked the administrator as to what the best plan was, and you came up with it. Now, on the other subject that we had a problem with and I forgot the name you used to, where you look at, that you came out here and, what was the name of it?
It's blended learning space. And
Okay.
that's what I think the architect meant to say,
Right.
blended learning as technology and, so it's blended learning space.
Now, to me, and I may be completely wrong, but it brings an idea, for instance, in a hospital, you have a room that you're operating and stuff like that. And you don't want everyone in to come into the table and start asking questions or poking or whatever. But you do want a view of the whole area so that another instructor, teacher, or whatever can come and say, well, they're doing this and that, and we may be doing this next week or whatever. So I can see that. I may be wrong in that. Is that what you had in mind?
No, these are more like lecture hall areas where we can bring different groups of people together. It's not a lab setup like we do for instruction and teaching. We have those. If you visited Hopkins High School and you've gone through our Head Start 19 setup, we have lab setup areas where you can go and see how that is structured. So we do have that, and we do want that at the core as well.
And one last, one last question was that, in 9/11, we lost the two towers, much larger than what we got now. What we got now is functional, and it has all the new technology to make it safer and stuff like that. And you did not necessarily want to create two more towers there because we already done that. And it was not going to be functional, and if it was, it would be probably more expensive. So when you look at theater, kind of the same idea, that you had to make, because of code and cost and all that, the necessary changes so it could allow you within the budget to provide the rest of the school. Thank you.
Nahida?
Mr. Nahara,
I'll
is this
just-
your last thing?
No, this isn't my last thing. I'll just restate, we're not losing seats because of anything other than allowing the two wings from what I understood. And it's also my understanding that the current theater doesn't even want them that big. So, if we can, they're not even used to them right now, assuming that it's Mr. Herbert that was involved in so, if he's a theater right now, he doesn't have it. You'll never miss what you don't have. And the students seem to work with it. And then when the students move on to real theaters, or this is a real theater, a theater with bigger wings, they'll be surprised with all the extra space. It's like moving in from, fifth wheel into a full house, You're excited with all the extra space. I would like to see, I know maybe these areas haven't been clearly defined and stuff, and maybe I shouldn't have forgotten my reading glasses, but I think if we could have, each of the sections, I have questions like I can't see where ROTC is. I don't know where the dance room is. I'm sure it's somewhere here, but I just can't, I can't see it. And so rather than sit here and say, well, you bring up the map and show me this and show me that, I think if we could just get that, would answer a whole bunch of my questions. Yeah, absolutely. I'm concerned with the number of classrooms. From what I count in the classroom towers, or actually, Ms. Rodriguez did the counting for me, so if it's wrong, blame it on her.
I can't count on my fingers anymore, sorry.
Oh, Lord.
There's 36 classrooms, I think. How many
The
classrooms?
science. The middle ones are the science.
Oh, okay. So, how many classrooms do we have right now? Is that enough? Am I miscounting?
I didn't
And
count
I
the
did-
science
Yeah,
rooms
I
because
counted
figured
core
those were-
academics and special
Right.
needs, because again, I can't see what,
There's 40 general academic classrooms.
okay.
That does not include science.
Is
There-
that
There are 8 science classrooms.
comparable to what you have right now, Mr. Tovar?
Right now, what they did, sir, was they got our master schedule, our current master schedule, and they adapted those classrooms into the current design. So we provided them at the start of the school year, the actual master schedule of our current count, and that's where they built off.
And that is just the general, because when we did this, we broke out SEC separate and did the same system for them and counted up theirs and actually SEC has 3 additional classrooms that they don't have now that they need, and we did the same thing for HPA. So in the building, there's many more classrooms, quote unquote, but they're broken out into SEC, HPA, and then the core academics, special needs, and then the CTE classrooms.
So we do have enough. I mean, basically what I'm hearing you say is that part of the reason I'm not counting all of them is because I don't have the detail, but I can rest assured that if we don't have enough classrooms, you and the construction company will add them for free, right?
There's capacity in the school for 2,500 students.
Okay, all right, sounds good.
If we end up with portables.
What about, Ms. Rodriguez also noticed this, but I'll ask the question anyways. There's no windows on the fine arts area, on all of it. Is there a reason for that?
There will be windows on part of it, on on the new orchestra mariachi and on the choir room. We are looking at putting some type of transparency from the dance room out to the hallway. You can kind of get the idea that there's dance and activity and movement through there, but it's not straight line visibility. And so then some of the other rooms are
So kinda
storage
like
rooms
that.
off to the sides, band.
No.
Two-way
Kind of
glass.
like you would put in a bathroom where you
Like
can
a-
see
like a
somebody's in the
frosted
bathroom.
glass,
They're
yeah, like a
frosted
frosted
glass
glass.
is what I was looking for. Okay. And then, the windows. Oh, the garden area. None of our other high schools that I can recall, well, Montwood does because it's old, but Pebble Hills, Eastlake, El Dorado, I don't think any of them have grass other than the baseball field. And, you know, if you ask the baseball teams, they want to get rid of that. So, Mr. Ianton, that's not, you know, there must have been a reason. Why are we considering grass here?
It's called design. I mean, that's what we're suggesting. We're still in design. It's a lawn area. It's just to act. Eastlake has a similar area, but it's all concrete. You know, it's just a little bit more invited, and if we're going to look at something other than a hard surface.
Yeah, I guess my question should have just been more directly, is that a maintenance burden for you or a concern or something like that, you know, or it's, you know, it's a little patch, who cares?
I heard one of the board members, unfortunately he is not here, basically said he liked the presentation on this building because it had some greenery around it,
What about,
you know.
I don't know, maybe more trees in the area, because, you know, if we're gonna put grass
Yeah,
in the, you know, design that we saw here, for this building, or, I'm sorry, the new technology services building, the area that we were gonna put, you know, for an outdoor area, we provided shade as well, and so, you know,
yeah, it's, you know, and I think I answered your question at the board meeting is, this is design. This is where we're getting your input.
Yeah.
We've got some work to do on the auditorium, you know, and I see that. But we're still at that point where it's design. We have not started making any selection of colors. Over lunch, we talked about, you know, they're going to start sending me samples and things about, you know, what we're going to be using and how we're going to be building this building. Mr. Gonzalez made a good point about budget. I'm still concerned about budget.
Yeah.
You know, if we have to add some things to incorporate some of the stuff that we're talking about now,
Yeah.
we have to look at that.
I like the offset. You know, I think it gives depth to the building. You know, I know Mr. Ayub doesn't like it, but I do. You know, I like that as you're driving down, you know, it gives depth to the entire area rather than, you know, again, just a warehouse, you know, that sits square to the street and just, you know, it doesn't, so it just, you know, right there. Having the administration area separate whose idea was that? I'm just curious. I guess my specific question, and I probably don't mean it the way it's gonna come out, okay, I just wanna know, is this Mr. Tovar's idea?
It was a natural
Because,
outcome of the design process.
Okay,
When you
and-
get a linear campus like this, because, you know, it's one of the struggles that we're facing as architects. Mr. Tovar said it very elegantly. We're in times of designing schools that we've never been in before.
right,
and they're massive. I mean, we design elementary schools at 130,000 square feet, 2 stories,
Right.
that have 1,050 kids in them. And, you know, what do you need to do to make it so that these kids are comfortable in these buildings? I don't care if they come from an upper-class family or a lower-income family. That put pressure implied on them to achieve in different ways. That means different things, different kids. And so part of what we are looking at as a firm is how do you make the building more personable? How do you make it softer? If you listen to everything coming out of the governor's office, you know, you hear about towns arming teachers. It's all about harden, harden, harden. Well, there's a point to where you make it so hard and we're not designing schools anymore.
We're designing prisons.
We're designing prisons. So one of the things to do is to soften it with human contact and interaction. And so that when a student has to go talk to somebody, it doesn't become an arduous adventure of walking a great distance, you know, saying, I need a restroom pass, when actually I need to really go talk to the counselor because I'm really about ready to flip out.
Right.
And have those type of interactions. So it's trying to embed those spaces into the campus on multiple levels.
Right.
We floated out the idea. We've seen it before. We've done it before.
Okay.
So that's where it came about.
I like the linear design, you know, in this one because my daughter went to Americas High School, the pod design, I always got lost in. I never knew where I was.
Exactly.
I had to find a window so I knew where I was, you know, so I really like that.
I like that Eastlake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just, you know, the reason I asked the question is because I assume Mr. Tawad at some point is going to be an assistant soup or a soup, you know, and so if we're just designing the school, you know, to his specs, then someone else is going to come in and say, all right, I can't work in this, it doesn't work for me, whatever. But we also have, you know, the assistant, all the other assistant soups and Dr. Espinosa who have been former principals. And so I, you know, assume that you all are comfortable with this design too and like the idea. I can say I've never been a principal, so I don't know, you know, but if you all agree that it works, then, you know, I have confidence that it does. Other than that, I think that's all I have.
That's all you have?
Last.
Ms. Rodriguez?
The last thing I'd like to say, you know, I honestly think the green space is really pretty behind the cafeteria area. But the other thing, we saw the design for what's potentially going to go out here with the trees and the benches and all that kind of stuff. And I know this is just preliminary, but it really, I mean, kids are going to be there. And when you think of like the UTEP campus, you know, there's different areas where you could potentially go outdoors and do homework and that kind of stuff.
Ditch. Just kidding.
No, that's what the back door is for.
That's why you don't want benches.
That's what the back door is for.
That's why you don't want benches.
Okay, then never mind. But that was just the only, you know, in looking at that spirit, in that space.
And I just wanted to, I think where they got that in of the many schematics that they had areas that kids wanted the college vibe, and they had pictures of kids sitting outside in the grass studying and stuff. I think probably that's where some of that came from.
But it's hot and itchy
I
on the
know,
grass.
trees would help.
Yes.
Hey, it wasn't hot and itchy when we were in high school.
We gotta
That
do
was a
that.
great
It
place
was
to
hot
hang out.
and itchy.
Okay.
There needs
Okay.
to be trees and
Mr.
shades at the
Gonzalez.
section.
I think one of the things we're missing is that in all those green areas, we also have the West Nile coming in.
Oh, you know what? Guys,
That's it.
Move on.
there's electricity inside the building, but somebody can be electrocuted. We can't, you know, have a barrier for everything. And in the design of the school, quite honestly, Michael's gonna like one design and somebody else isn't gonna like it. We are not gonna be able to please everybody. We will hear from parents, we will hear from students that someone loves it and someone hates it. There is no way on the face of the earth we're going to be able to please all the people all the time.
Just to be
We
clear,
can
I'm
do
the
our
only one that
best.
matters.
I'm sorry.
I'm the only one that matters.
That's how I feel.
And there are 7 of us who feel like that. Again, that's why we're an odd number. Dr. Espinosa.
Is that your last slide?
This is my first one. Miss President Nahara did have a question because she noticed something. It was a good catch, and maybe I'll mention it. Ms. Nahara, special needs students, I think she noticed that the classrooms were on the 2nd floor. And did we look at that wrong?
And the third floor.
So no, we did meet with Mr. Ortega, I believe I have that correct,
Right.
and his staff about that. The students that have the special needs where mobility is an issue are on the 1st floor.
Okay,
We'll switch
Okay.
over to that plan in those purple spaces.
got it.
The idea of the other classrooms is it may be a mastery class, a content resource type room, so that it is spread throughout the campus, so there's not the special needs wing, it's distributed.
Okay, but just for clarification, a resource classroom is a classroom, is a classroom, is a classroom. The ones that, again, that should be kind of really looked into, and I'm glad that on the 1st floor are the more accessible classrooms for any student that needs a wheelchair, or the specialty classrooms, life skills classrooms, those kinds of things. But the other classrooms are just classrooms.
And they are, but we show them that way because it affects the capacity. We don't count those classrooms as a capacity generator of the campus, because you don't know year to year how many students you would have in those rooms. But the spaces you're talking about with mobility, other heavier needs are on the 1st floor here,
Okay.
with quicker access, and we will work on the site plan so that they have maybe more direct access to
Okay.
their
And
bus
just
needs.
out of curiosity, in that area there, in the student area, where are the stairs and where are the elevators?
So there would be elevators, stairwells here and here, and
Okay.
elevators, I believe, are there?
Okay.
Sorry. But,
I kind of know this one inside.
yeah.
So, when this building works, there's going to be 2 elevators. There's an elevator on here, and there's going to be Security Vestibule that goes up and down. There's different stairs in here. On the side down here, there's an elevator here. There's 3 elevators that go through all 4 of the buildings all together. There's stairs here, 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 here. And there's stairs back in this area here.
Okay.
Are the stairs open or are they behind a closed door?
All enclosed.
Oh,
Good.
So there's no exit to the outside from that stairwell in the far right corner? Yes, sir.
On a 3-story building, it's required to. But it's fully enclosed.
Yeah, it just worries me that someone could prop that door open but
Dr. Espinosa.
Yes, so thank you for clarifying that. Couple things. Number one, I do want to thank VOK for your work and for answering, questions of our trustees and working with our community. I also want to thank, and this is rarely, I don't recall this happening in a while, where a principal comes to a podium here at a board meeting, so he's still here, right? Mr. Tovar, doing a great job at Socorro High School. This guy's a rock star, doing a tremendous job as the principal at Socorro High School, so thank you, Mr. Tovar. I'd like to go back to, the offices being split, and Mr. Ayub and I, we talked about this. As a matter of fact, Ms. Rodriguez at executive committee, and Mr. Ayub suggested, Joe, Dr. why don't you go talk to, Chief and our EOP manager, Mr. Castro, and get their input. We thought that was a great suggestion. And so I called in Chief and Mr. Castro in, and I just posed a question. So, designing Socorro High School, what do you think about the administrative office? I just posed a question. I didn't influence them with what I was thinking. And both of them said, I think because of the safety, I think they should be split. I mean, Chief and putting you guys on the spot, right? No, you don't have to, and so today, just want to get more information. We had our leadership meeting today and we had about 105, principals, directors in this very room, and said, hey, we need some input. We're designing Socorro High School. Hey, as a principal, as a leader here in the district, whether you're a director or principal, I would like for you to stand on this side of the room if you feel the offices at high school, specifically Socorro High School, being designed should be spread out. And if you feel they should be together, stand on this side of the room. And it was 3-1 where most people, and it was interesting, as the secondary people, most of them stood over here. Jennifer Hansen, who's an awesome principal at Horizon Heights Elementary, she said, she stood over here, she says, no, I want them here because it's a smaller school. So, and I, as I think Mr. Nájera mentioned, as a former principal, I would have loved when I was a middle school principal in Houston, the offices spread out because of what we've talked about safety. But Mr. A brings up some good points. He sees the advantages of them being together, for parents, visitors. Hey, they're right there, you don't have to go and wait for them. But I do have a question, Mr. Tovar. Classrooms, the minutes for the classes, how many minutes at Socorro High School? 46 minutes, okay, so you got 46 minutes, an assistant principal, the bell rings, goes out to, and just think of Eastlake High School, since we have that picture in our mind because we know what it looks like. You're in the front office and you got to go to duty because there's 2,500 kids moving. Takes you a while to get to that theater. Okay, kids in class now. Walk back, oh, guess what, what's going to ring right away because it's 45 minutes. The bell, you got to go back there again. So let me tell you, I think at Eastlake High School we got some APs and principals that are pretty in shape because they're going back and forth. I think they could outrun anybody, So I do think, and I talked to the executive committee and board members. I think this is, Mr. A's right. There's not many schools that are like this, so it'll be kind of a first of its kind, but I do agree that them being spread out will benefit our students, as Ms. Nájera said, our students get where our teachers feel the support, it's quick access, so just wanted to, emphasize that. The other thing is, and we talked going back about the theater and the stage, I know that was brought up. Is the size of the stage here at Socorro High School comparable to the ones at Pebble Hills and Eastlake, the stage? Did it say? Okay. Just wanted to clarify. I thought the answer was yes.
But is the old one the same or is it bigger?
So the stage itself isn't changing much of the size. It's the stage front that's changing. So the portal you view the play through that changes. The stage itself is only changing a little bit. One of the desires was that they had a hallway connecting the fine arts kind of at the back of the building. And you can see it there is that white line.
Mm-hmm.
It'll serve two purposes. Day-to-day school function, it's a kind of a assistant principal cut through or a teacher cut through so they can get from one hallway to the other on the fine arts. During stage performances, a lot of times they would run behind a rear curtain. Well, this lets them go out of that space and actually run in the hallway. It had lighting so that it doesn't disturb the actual play, but it becomes that backstage circulation. So it still functions as part of the stage. So other than that, it's the same size as it is today and comparable to the other two high schools.
Okay. And when Mr. Nájera talked about the grass, and I think he mentioned turf, it kind of triggered something in my mind because there's some things that we need direction from our trustees because I've heard, I wouldn't want this to happen. I've heard from our baseball coaches that, hey, how about some turf on our baseball fields? So this is what I would not want to happen. We built Socorro High School, and Mr. Nájera said, I'm glad he said grass, and it got me thinking about baseball, where we put grass on this baseball field, and because all the other baseball coaches and the other baseball fields at America's, they want, and somehow or another it ends up we change the turf. Oh, well, guess what? Now I want turf on our Socorro baseball field. Like, we just built it, we just put grass. So, Mr. Ianton or trustees, thoughts on that? Because that's the last thing I would want. Put turf, put grass, and then change it up, and now we're putting turf.
Well, what's the plan now? Or baseball?
With the baseball field.
It's going to be just like everybody else. It's just going to be the dirt. It's not going to
No,
have
no.
turf. It's not going to have turf.
No, the outfield. baseball.
It's going to have grass, natural grass.
That's what I'm saying. So it's going to have grass.
Yeah, it's
Grass
not-
instead
yeah.
of turf.
Same experience regardless of the high school you go to.
Okay.
All our baseball fields have grass right now.
That is
Yes.
correct. And
Okay.
That's
Yes.
how it's being designed. Yes.
All right, perfect.
Yes.
All right, the other thing I noticed, and because this has come up in conversations, and I just want to make sure that we are on the same page, and I noticed on the design, the football field, it did not have any stands in the,
Well, it needs to have, I think it needs to be comparable to Eastlake and Pebble Hills. Whatever stands we have there.
there was
these guys
nothing
need to have
there,
it.
so I just want to make
Yeah,
sure.
it-
Trying-
It needs to-
And-
When I
and-
look at it, it needs to look the same way as Pebble Hills
And
and
that's,
Eastlake.
that's the intent. However, the video, how'd you say it?
Who did that?
Animation don't like bleachers, but the bleachers are going to be there,
Oh, yeah.
just like Eastlake and Pebble Hills and all the other. Montwood, they'll have X amount on the home side, and I think it's 800, don't quote me, and then 400 on the visitor. That's what,
Gotta be
that's what,
equitable.
Yeah.
Gotta
it's
do-
equitable.
Do our other high schools have 2 practice fields as well?
Yes.
Okay.
One for the band and one for, is it
No,
JV
no,
or
no, no.
freshman?
Yeah,
Because
they
this,
do.
Is it
yeah.
for freshman
2
and
foot,
JV?
because I see, okay, so this one has
A football field?
a football field and then
another
2
field
other
and another
practice fields. And then they have
Huh?
a band practice field as well.
Pebble Hills and Eastlake do.
We're making them comparable to Pebble Hills and Eastlake, and they do.
So
three
they have
fields?
the main football field with the track around it, and then they have another 2 practice fields, and then,
Eastlake, they're to the, what is it, east side, and then the same thing Pebble Hills. And then they also have their band tower that is completely separate.
And aren't those used for soccer fields, correct?
Yes, they're used for multi-purpose,
Okay.
for any. events
Intramural.
that are necessary. Yes.
and I just realized I gotta pay more attention when I walk around.
Well, they're older.
Yes.
So this is it, because, yeah, because I didn't see the stands there on the football field, so they will be like Eastlake and Pebble Hills and Montwood. But also, is a press box also scheduled to be there at Socorro High School? And that's why I want to make sure the other trustees
At the football field?
at Socorro High School,
No.
which means,
There's press boxes at the softball and baseball field,
okay,
but
Like
not
every
the
other
football, like every other school,
Yeah,
but
we
not at
built
the
one, then we
football.
gotta build 6 others.
Yeah.
Remember what happened with that whole
Yeah.
press box at the baseball? field?
Press box at the,
Yeah,
there's
it's-
one existing at the
I don't know.
at the baseball field. The new softball field will have, we built a press box there, so that'll have to be redone, but none at the football field.
And now with the advent of our second SAC, there is not the need. Currently, there is a need because we have triple headers sometimes that we need that, but now with our new SAC coming, that will not be a necessity for our district.
so I just wanted to, I guess, trustees' comments or any, about, that means there will be no more football games at Socorro High School. There's no press box. Friday nights, no more football games, so,
The
With-
JV. so
There will be
whatever.
JV and.
yes, yeah,
and
freshmen,
freshmen.
JV, sophomores.
Yeah.
JV, freshman, yeah.
But with the addition of the new SAC,
We
there
don't
will
need
be no need. I mean, there's a need to have Socorro games now because of our double headers and our additional schools opening up. But once we have the second SAC open, there will be no need to have football games at Socorro High School.
And our kids would love the experience at the Saks.
Okay. And the last thing, I know,
Finally.
this is the last thing.
Mr. Ayub, is that you again?
He's rubbing off on me over here. The other thing, I know trustee, Mr. Gandara, who's not here today, I wish he was here, but he had mentioned about basketball courts and at Socorro High School. So thoughts, is that it?
Yeah. So we, and where we discussed at that last meeting was put the outdoor basketball courts right there.
Do all
What,
the
is
other
that
high
real?
schools have them?
Yes, ma'am.
At all the other high schools?
Currently, they're at Socorro High School, but they're back in this area here. So we're gonna take them and remove them from this area here and put them in this area here.
Could you go back to the other slide? We can see the whole school. I just need keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. I guess that would
They'll be
do.
out there.
Where? Right
It'll be
here.
out there.
Off of Rio Vista. And is that open to the public, or is that?
Yeah, they're outdoor.
Yeah, use the facilities, if it's not, regular Monday through Friday, but Monday through Friday, all of our facilities are open when we have
they
custodians and security.
So, can I go play basketball there at 8 in the evening on a Saturday?
If the campus is closed, which it usually is, the answer is no unless there's a use of facility. But if it's a regular school day, and usually our schools go up until 10, 11 o'clock, and the facility is open, yes.
So there'll be a fence or something?
They're usually.
Kind of far from the school. I mean, maybe not to scale.
Yeah, but is there any other place
I mean,
for it?
even when the students need to go play, that's a long walk. Yeah.
Well, actually, in the discussions, when this came up at the last meeting, that was the suggestion, that was location that was suggested, due to the fact that it would be easier for students and people to get to because it was not buried back behind the high school. So because it was thought of for community use, and that's the reason it was pulled out to the front and not buried back in the back of the high school.
I'm wondering what, Dr. Espinosa, I wonder what the chief or Mr. Castro think about safety aspects of that. And then it's back there.
Have that interlocal agreement with the parks that we currently have to provide services to as well.
Right.
And so this wouldn't be any different. It would,
Could you kind of walk and say it again?
I said
Chief?
that we already provide services to this. Montwood High School has the basketball courts that face Montwood and also Firehouse Drive.
And basically Saul Kleinfeld too, because, I mean,
Exactly.
the only thing there is, you got the baseball field, but then there,
Yeah, you have the practice field that is visible from Saul Kleinfield.
Now, one of the advantages there is it's way lit up. I mean, I'm wondering from a safety perspective, are we gonna end up with a bunch of drunks here or trouble because it's out there in the back and it's easy access?
Isolated.
It's actually,
And it's
Mr. You're not, otherwise, it's not in the back, it's actually on the Rio Vista side.
Right.
Right.
So it's actually not,
On the
in
Rio
so
Vista
people,
side. And if I'm not incorrect, it might have the same setup as the other schools, that they have the override for the lights, except that after a certain hour, they go off, and I believe it's 10 p.m.
yeah, so you press the button and they stay on for a
X
certain amount
hours
of
until
time,
10
and then
p.m.
if they turn off, you can press the button again, but like after 11 or whatever, they,
Yeah, they
but people can still hang out there. I'm not playing basketball, I don't care if the lights are off, I can just go hang out there.
well,
In this case here,
not necessarily. They're going to be fenced in, is what I understood. So,
Oh.
And they'll be locked.
yeah, so we lock them.
They lock them at a certain
Yeah,
time.
same thing for Montwood. Montwood, we lock the gates at the end of the day. Yeah.
And there could be gates on those access roads off the Rio Vista too that we can lock off. That's all.
So they can't drive in.
so what would be another option? I don't know where, I guess, Mr. Clinton or Ken or Mr. Ianton, in case, hey, the trustees talk, afterward, and well, but what about over here? Would there be another possible option?
can we put them on the roof of the front entrance?
There you go.
It's prominent.
What's in that front?
I like the other picture better, if you guys don't mind. Can you show me on the other one again? Where are you, right here, where are you?
There's not enough space right there next to the tennis courts? Or then that ruins the aesthetics of the building, right?
Yeah, that's right up front.
And
There's an
On the
advantage to
other
having all of
picture-
the athletic stuff together.
on the other picture, is there space in front of the practice fields? the practice football fields. See,
Oh, you'd be right on Alameda.
see,
We're back to the aesthetics of the building, and the people want a nice building. Oh,
okay, okay,
but detention pond is the issue.
Okay.
all right.
I kind of like the idea of athletic stuff together, but I mean, it just doesn't matter to me.
But the tennis courts aren't, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, we're not looking at the students using the basketball courts wouldn't be for athletics, it would be more recreational.
Well, we're building them for athletics, but I mean, the issue is can people use them after hours? Like they do in Mount with the tennis courts and the basketball courts.
Well, they'll have the gym to use for basketball, correct?
Yeah, that's,
But we
Like
have-
everybody
yeah,
else
but we have
does.
PE also, and everybody goes out there with it.
Just an option to look at, if you can.
But did you like one better?
Yeah, but I'm with you, Mr. Area, with the
they're
athletics.
closer
like
to
that too.
athletics.
With
That's why I'm like, why,
I don't know, what do the trustees think?
Well, and that's faster to the gyms, I mean, to the locker rooms. I think if there's room.
Maybe just somewhere on the athletic side, if we could look at maybe an option or two, please. Any other questions?
no.
No,
Any
but-
last questions?
No, but
One
one last
last
comment,
thing.
because teachers at every campus ask me this. Did you put in faculty restrooms? I'm told by teachers they gotta run down the hall, around the corner, up the stairs, and into the basement to find a restroom sometimes. Or they run to Waterbury. Did you put enough faculty restrooms? On every floor? Okay. As long as they can go potty, we're all right, you know what I mean? Well, and I'll tell you, that they always complain because you only get those 5 minutes, and they can't leave classrooms unattended, and so sometimes they're making this mad rush, and, 5 teachers in one restroom brings up questions.
Okay,
And on that note, on the restrooms, for the basketball courts and all the back, is there gonna be access? Because I certainly wouldn't want to be going in the wrong place.
Well, like baseball, everybody in the football field, baseball field, they gotta come to the restrooms anyway. Yes, there's a good, we got a ditch.
I mean, we don't provide those at our other schools, outside
No,
restrooms,
no.
no. I mean, I think it's our responsibility as a school district, the students can go inside the building to use the restroom. I don't think it's our place to have to provide
We're
restrooms
not a
for,
park, we're a school.
exactly. Okay,
I think you're adjourned, man.
if there's no further business for this workshop, gentlemen, thank you so very much. We greatly
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
We are adjourned at 8:14 for the last time.
Yay. One last time.
One
Wait,
last
one more
time.
last thing.